Okay, we are live. What's going on, everybody? Got the beanie on. I just came from the gym, so save the jokes. All right, but we're setting up shop here. Going to be a little bit of a quicker stream, not too long, but I think there's been some developments in the news that are quite interesting. And so we'll go over this whole situation in New York with Jake Lang, which I think is really funny. But I have some specific comments that I want to make in regards to that situation that I think a lot of people could benefit from hearing, primarily Muslims. So I want to go into that. And I also want to give some updates on Iran. Things seem more or less the same, but it seems as if though Trump and Pete Hegseth are heavily flirting with the idea of boots on the ground becoming a reality or materializing in these next few weeks. And so we'll go over that. We'll see all the developments that has to do with that. Trump has made some new statements to NBC, as well as other things that have been stated by the Iranian president, and so on, as well as the Gulf countries have made some statements of condemnation as well against Iran. And it seems like there's some dissatisfaction from the Gulf countries against the United States. As we previously knew, Saudi Arabia wasn't really happy about the fact that the United States has prioritized air defense in Israel's favor as opposed to the rest of the Gulf countries. So there is a lot of developments coming from this war, and there's a ripple effect across the region. And there seems to be a lot of dissatisfaction, not only from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and all these other countries. They've kind of built a shadow alliance or a joint force at this point in order to stand against Iran in some statements they've made, which me and my brother had previously went over. But I had said this will pit the Gulf countries against the United States. Maybe not up front or so forwardly in the present time, but I think over time there's going to be a development of tension from these Middle Eastern countries in regards to their relationship with the United States, and that's very important. The Strait of Hormuz has been relatively blocked off, not entirely, but partially blocked off, and so oil prices have increased. I believe the price of gas in the United States, especially in some major areas like that of New York City, where I am right outside of New York City in Connecticut, gas has gone up a full dollar, so that's great. And I pump premium gas, so that's just amazing. But we're seeing some effects. I think there's some important developments. And I don't want to do the whole like bragging like I was saying this was going to happen, but me and my brother did hint at the fact that this would probably have to become or grow into or graduate to a boots on ground style of war if the United States is to make any progress in actually removing the current power structure of Iran, that being the IRGC and their military leadership. We've decapitated most of it. And so maybe from the outside it seems like they're weakened, but that's not the case. They're still hitting Gulf countries as we speak. In northern Israel, just about 20 minutes ago, there were alarms. And so, sirens were alarmed. And so it seems like they're still sending those ballistic missiles across the Gulf and all the way over to Israel as well. Some of them reaching Israel in about 7 or 8 minutes. So we'll get into that. But I don't want to start with that because we've been on and on with the Iran war. And there hasn't been anything, like I said, groundbreaking. But there have been some developments that have vindicated some of my predictions. And so if you were hating, stay on that side. Like I said on Twitter, I said, draw the line where you're at. Draw the line where you're at because I'm really sick and I'm trying not to curse. I told my mom I won't curse. I was about to just drop a hard F-bomb. We won't curse. YouTube doesn't like it anyways. They demonetize my videos when I curse a lot. So no cursing. But I was saying this would happen. And so I went to Twitter. I can read the tweet right here because I was mad. Let's see. So I tweeted this a few days ago, and we'll read it together. I say, it's so amusing when people say, what happened? Looks like the United States won or they're winning. I said, it's embarrassing. You're a Gentile adopting Zionist talking points, and you don't even realize it. You fuel the Zionist entity to gain full control over a pivotal region, that being the Middle East. Way to tell on yourself as to how politically illiterate you are, as well as unaware of how the world works. There will certainly be a negative domino effect if Iran is completely immobilized. You will come to know, and I will not be accepting apologies after some years, it will be apparent. What I mean by that is the negative domino effect. I couldn't care less about the IRGC. My interest is that they strategically play a critical role in keeping Israel at bay. The Ayatollah regime is actually responsible for the death of many Sunni Muslims. I still recognize there is a larger, more powerful threat existing. Draw the line in the sand and stand where you are now. You never really learn, do you? So that's kind of a message to the Magatars. I've been seeing some comments on my video, as well as Myron's videos. You guys are pro-Iran. You guys are Muslims. You guys are you guys hate the United States. It's like, no, we actually love the United States. Hey, dumbass, we actually love the United States. That's why we oppose this war so heavily. And there's a shortage of right-wing talking. There's a shortage of right-wing voices, really, in regards to opposition of this war or condemning this war, condemning Trump. Of course, Trump's approval rating is lower than it's ever been, but a lot of Republicans are behind this war. Even people like Steven Crowder, who were kind of coming around recently in his collaboration with Nick Fuentes and others, it seemed like he was kind of starting to get the whole foreign policy issue. And now he's kind of adding this spin that it could be beneficial for the United States to get into this war. And so I've had it. I've really had it, and I'm sick and tired of everybody saying that there's a potentiality of goodness or greatness for this war. And yeah, maybe for Israel, but not for the United States whatsoever. And take a look at this. My brother retweeted this. What did I just say in this tweet, by the way? I said this is going to have a negative domino effect on the Middle East and increase the distrust within our partners in these Gulf countries that earn us a lot of money and invest into our country, trillions of dollars. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they invest so much money into our country. And they're very powerful countries. And so financially or economically rather. And so this reads, New Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates or the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar may withdraw from contracts with the United States and cancel future investment commitments, in the United States to alleviate some of the economic strain imposed on them by the Iran war. Okay, you can read this. I'm not going to read it in full. I don't want to bore you guys to death, but that's pretty much the conclusion or the summary of that statement. And this was released by the countries. And look at this. My brother says here, I knew this was coming. The Chinese and Russians are rubbing their hands right now, as we said. And what's currently happening in these Gulf countries? Well, here, let me show you, because this started on Saturday. We're a week into this war, yet still we see stuff like this. So this is some building in the UAE getting hit. I believe it's Dubai. Let me just make sure there's... Okay, this video's got no sound. Take a look at this. I believe this was a drone strike. Now, why Iran is targeting civilian infrastructure, my guess is to eliminate key personnel that are allied with the U.S., strategic pieces within the government of the UAE or the United States that play a big role in the war. That's my guess. But then again, they could just be going crazy. Nevertheless, whether it's right or it's wrong, there's been a negative effect on these countries. That was my point the whole time. And they're still hitting these countries hard across the Gulf, okay? We can see here, this was yesterday at Dubai International Airport. Previously, they hit Kuwait's airport. And guys, bear in mind, these are first world countries. These are well-developed, safe, very family-friendly countries that are opportunistic for tourism. And so these countries make a ton of money on tourism. People think it's the oil. Yeah, it's the oil, but the oil is no longer going to be their main driving factor of economic growth probably in the next 20 or 30 years. And that's because the world is probably going to move away from oil real soon. We see the production of electric cars ramping up significantly in places like China, as well as the United States. All of these car manufacturers are moving towards oil, and just everything else is kind of becoming virtualized or electric. And so it's very evident that the world is not going to depend on oil as heavily in the next 10 or 15 years. It won't be the hottest commodity anymore. The reason why that's relevant is because these Gulf countries like Dubai, like Kuwait, like Saudi Arabia are going to have to heavily lean and depend on tourism. And what hurts tourism more than a fucking drone strike in your airport? I'm sorry, mama. I'm sorry. Trying not to curse.
It's coming to the airport again. Yeah, Allah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, Allah, straight to the airport.
Boom.
Oh my God. Ya Rab. Ya Rab.
And so...
Ya Rab.
And so I know what people are going to be saying. Oh, these strikes aren't, hurting anybody. These strikes aren't really killing anybody. First of all, good. Second of all, it's not even that. It's the optics of it. How many people are going to refrain from investing in the Gulf because of this or traveling to the Gulf because of this? So that's the biggest thing. And so long as that continues to happen, well, then these Gulf countries are going to suffer drastically because these countries are known to be peaceful. And I know there was a statement, and we're going to go over the news article where Iran had said they're done dealing with the Gulf countries and attacking them so long as some conditions are met, whatever. We'll read the article. I have them pulled up here. But regardless, they can... First of all, here's the thing. They've hurt them from the aspect that I just explained, as well as the fact that they exposed these guys have no missile defense system. The THAADs are getting hit in Jordan, and the United States is stretched thin across the region. They have to defend several countries from these Iranian missiles and these drones, these Shahed drones that Russia's been using in Ukraine. And so they've got to pick their poison. You either defend the main adversary of Iran and the target, really, at the end of the day, ultimately that's the main target is Israel, and you give them all the air defense, which they need it because they're getting hit as we speak. I believe, again, like I said, there's sirens going off in northern Israel about 20 minutes ago, per some reports of some valid, credible sources I follow. But as well as the fact that, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Riyadh, that's a big city in Saudi Arabia, lots of oil coming out of Riyadh. You have Qatar, you have Kuwait. And on top of that, the Strait of Hormuz is being threatened with Iranian missile strikes, with Iranian drones, with Iranian presence. And although the United States is offering insurance to these ships and these guys who are carriers of oil, they're not going to take that. So it's a catastrophic effect that we're seeing, and it's materializing across the Middle East. But, that's kind of what's going on in Iran. We'll get specific into the developments. I want to go into this Jake Lang thing, like I said. But welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. I know I kind of went crazy in the intro there, but this stuff is real. And like I said, it's not that you're in danger if you're in Dubai, but the government is in danger. The economy is in danger. So, and also we're in danger in terms of our relationship with Iran. If we lose hegemony in the Middle East, we lose a good deal of our power. We're the strongest country in the world, and I want it to stay that way. And as so long as our partners in the Middle East are getting by a country we're attacking, that may not be the case for a good long while. So we'll see what happens. I'll read some chats here, and then we'll get into the show. Myron is at the airport, I believe. I don't know. He's been texting me. I think he's going to be landing in Miami later on tonight at some point, and so he has not left yet. He just concluded his college debates. So tune in to Uncensored America on, I believe, what will be Monday for his college debates. Those are always funny. Lots of good clips should come out of those, and so stay tuned for that. That should be a ton of fun to watch. They had snipers on the roof defending him, or protecting him, rather. I don't know if that was funded by Uncensored America or what, but W there. That was fire. So Myron will be back. I'm just going to do a solo stream tonight, so sorry if you guys are looking for Myron. Or you're going to have to get the black Myron, but hopefully I'm somewhat entertaining. I'm performing, guys, okay? I'm the jester. You guys sit back and watch and enjoy, and I'm going to do my best to cover the news. Like I said, we're not going to go into everything. There's some developments or some news about Cuba and Trump looking to Cuba for regime change or flirting with the idea. That's something that I want to cover, but we can extensively go into that with Myron because that's a whole other conversation now. And I'm just going to go into the Jake Lang thing because that kind of has to do with like this whole Muslim-Christian beef, this whole subversion, I'd like to say. And Sneeko and Nick were just talking about that. If you watched their stream earlier, they collabed for a little while, and they were talking about this attempted diversion or the benefit of a certain class of people from the United States and its Muslim-Christian beef, right? Because there's been a lot of tension lately with the Times Square. Jake Lang is roasting a pig in front of Mamdani's office, right? Muslims are praying in public. There's this whole thing, but we'll go into it. We'll get into it. So I'll read some chats. We'll see what we got going on. Look at I know I keep diverting. I'm saying we'll read some chats and I keep talking. Look at the lights. W or what? Okay, we're upgrading. We got a new camera funded by Myron Gaines. Shout out to him. Bank account, right? Myron's got the money. Myron's got the motion. So we got a new camera. We have some lights. We got some RGB lights in the back giving a little bit of a vibe. Okay. We got the pink and blue. And if you look in the mirror, we have more blue, teal, I guess. And then we got the sign above me. Shout out to my boy for getting me that sign. It was a gift. I wasn't even going to buy it yet. So we're moving. The stream is coming along well, or the streaming setup rather. And so hopefully it's a little bit more enjoyable for you guys. This is 4K right now that I'm filming in. By the way, the camera overheats when I run it in 4K. So I've got like 2 fans behind the camera right now to ensure the camera doesn't go black midstream. But we'll see what happens. I could fix it right away and just drop it down to 1080p. But we're at 4K, 60 FPS. So this should look good. Okay, it really shouldn't. I don't know if the quality can get any much better than this. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully the viewership experience has gone up. And someone said Myron funding Muslim Byron, Jew Myron. Okay, very funny. But yeah, hopefully it's crispy. Hopefully it looks good. I think that matters. When I'm watching a streamer and their quality is terrible, it's like, all right, man, you're doing a great job. I'm enjoying your content, but like, this is really bad. I was on a webcam before, and the lighting was all crazy. I was kind of fraud maxing with the lighting. I'm not going to lie. I did look way more light skinned. When we say, me and TPC Films, shout out to TPC Films. He's the guy who helps me and Myron with the setup, with the streaming, with the camera, with the lights. because he has an eye for that stuff. That's his profession, or at least he does it on the side. And he was telling me, he's like, hey man, you're too washed out. The lighting is too bright. And I'm like, no, yeah, I know the webcam is not good. He says, no, it's not even the webcam. The lighting is too bright. And so we worked for like 2 hours yesterday or 2 days ago to kind of fix the lighting. And it looks better. It's more cinematic. There's like a shadow effect in my face, but I was like, yo, I look really, I look really black now. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm way darker than Myron, guys, like way darker. So it's all good. But anyways, someone said the ad experience fresh. Okay. Yeah. So this is like my true skin color. This is my true skin tone. Myron is super light. I'm like the darkest one in the family. All right. Chats. Focus. Okay. We have from Mike87662. He says, dope to see the come up. Been watching Myron since 2021. We're the same age, so I rock with you. Hey, bro, God bless you. Yeah, I'm 24. So for those of you who don't know, Myron is 36. I'm 24. So there's about 11, 12 year age gap between us. And so, yeah, he's like Unc, I guess, right? He's a lot older than me. He's my older brother. He's my big brother. But hopefully maybe the young guys can resonate with my brain rot. I'm a little bit more online. I'm on TikTok, Maybe that'll offer some value to you guys. But yeah, that's our age gap for any of you who are curious, because I know every single stream I go live, now that I'm newer in the space, there's probably new people every single time tuning in. Okay, Big Jizzleful says, it's a blessing to see you doing your thing, brother. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, bro. Thank you so much. God bless you. Dominicano says, great setup, bro. Keep grinding. Come to the 420 meetup. Yeah, I'm going to try to. I have been taking a lot of time off of work. If you guys don't know, I still have a full-time job. And so it's really tough to do that and then stream and then edit. I edit a lot of my videos. I have a guy editing my short. Shout out to Ahmed. But I think I can make it work. I just got to take time off. But thanks for the super chat, man. I appreciate the $20. Cappy McCappy says, check out Strike Map. Okay. What are your thoughts on the UAE paying influencers to lie about what's happening in Dubai? Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, look, I can knock them, but if you're a Gulf country and one of the main driving factors of economic growth is tourism, I would probably pay the citizens in my country to lie about the situation as well. But I mean, I'll grant them some grace here. It's not that bad, right? I don't think that people are being killed. I don't think that anyone's in real danger, but it comes off that way. And that's effectively the kill shot. That's exactly what I imagine Iran would want to do to these Gulf countries, make them look a lot less attractive. And so there's a greater evil to what they're doing rather than the fact that they're just physically attacking them with missiles or drones. And it's primarily drones, and drones are not as damaging or vicious as missile strikes. I don't think the blast and the width of it is as bad, the radius, as well as the sheer carnage that you get from a missile. It's way worse than that of a drone. So it's more of a political attack, political strikes. It's a little bit more theatrical than I think it is physically trying to hurt them. Although, I mean, you could argue, those strikes in the hotels, those strikes in civilian infrastructure to kill personnel, they're going to take people out doing that. I think they already have, but I just haven't seen any confirmed reports. And so it's a little more symbolic than anything, but it's still very damaging. And I've said that a million times. So I don't blame Dubai for doing that. And then that's something they always do. That's a monarchy. That's like a more authoritarian, theocratic kind of government, at least the way they run things. And so, they tell people what to do. I'm sure you probably get in trouble if you report the news in Dubai in a way that's favorable to Iran. So yeah, they got a message to push. They got an MO that they have to maintain. So I don't blame them. Jeremiah says, W brain rot. Facts, bro. I don't demonize, bro, I be on Twitter. I be on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? I use my phone. Everybody at work that I work with, because I work with people who are a little bit older than me, and they don't understand these terms, and they think it's so cool. They're like, oh, my screen time is so low. It's all right, nigga, I don't care. I just hate that health kind of conscious, bro, I'm healthy. I go to the gym. I just came from the gym. I eat clean food. I track my calories. I'm going to scroll my phone, piss off. You got to pick and choose your battles here. So, and plus I'm online because I stay up with the news. I check the news all the time, but, I get different perspectives from guys on TikTok, content creators on X and stuff. So it pays for me to be online because I can deliver you guys more value, deliver you guys more nuanced takes, analysis. stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a brain rotter. I'll definitely be scrolling. Okay. W Riyadh going solo. Side note, any thoughts on having your own paywall site for your content? Patreon locals? No, man. You know, maybe one day when I get huge. All right, that was really not like that, but maybe one day when I get a large following, right, and I'm censored everywhere, then of course that conversation is to be had. That comes up. That's actually legitimate. But for now, I'm on YouTube, and my YouTube is fine, and I'm not that big yet. I'm not that popular yet. I have been seeing some guys clipping me, so shout out to you guys. But, you know, once I gain a larger following and me and my brother really do this hardcore, and it's like official, if that makes sense, you know, we might lean towards that direction. But I want to try to make sure all of my content, if you guys enjoy it, is accessible, because I think that's very important, especially when you're starting out for the first few years. So you don't want to set a paywall right away that's like really dingy and not a good look, as well as the fact that I don't need it at this moment. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Everything will be a domino effect. Maybe one step will cause me to do that. We'll see. Someone says, where's Myron? Myron is at the airport. His flight is delayed. He'll be back in Miami at some point tonight. So I'm doing a quick solo stream, giving you guys some news, giving you guys some updates, entertaining you guys, hopefully. But we'll get into it. I'm finishing up chats, and then we're going to get into the news with Jake Lang. Just got here. What's going on, Little Ninja? Thank you so much. That's from Kachamatolj. Nothing much, man. We're going live. We're having a good time tonight. Saif said, Salam Habibi from OSS 300. DM'd you on Insta. Let me know if you ever need anything. Trying to bring you Myron to ASU as I work in Silicon Valley doing doctoral there. Inshallah, we'll see you at the 420 meetup. Hey, salam alaikum to you, bro. Yeah, I'm going to try to make it to the 420 meetup. And yeah, if you can get Myron to ASU, that would be great. He's trying to do a big tour and visit as many colleges as he can. So that would be very helpful. But thanks for the super chat, and thank you all for your super chats and your donations. I appreciate it. Someone said Timu Myron. All right, bro. Like, guys, let me do the show. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. If you want to watch Myron, you get me, I'd be pissed too. If I was a fan and I turned on the stream to watch Myron and then I'm getting his younger brother, I'd be like, all right, bro, like, fuck, this isn't Myron. But it's fine. Let's get into the news here. That stuff doesn't bother me. I think it's funny, you know. Okay, so I thought this was interesting. If you guys don't know, Jake Lang is like some Christian nationalist dumbass who's been causing issues, attacking Muslims nonstop. He's kind of like a Laura Loomer, except he's a guy. And so he's like always calling for anti-Islamic rhetoric. He says that the United States is being invaded by Muslims, which is asinine. I think there's only 1.1% of the United States population is actually that of Muslims. And he's been in New York. He's been in Minneapolis. He's been in major cities kind of doing his thing. He's clout chasing, right? These kinds of antics get lots of views, lots of clicks. Lots of people enjoy it. That caters to the Gen X, the millennial, the boomer demographic, and where they think that Muslims are the problem for everything, and they still kind of believe in the same Fox News, CNN narrative from that of 2001 being Saddam Hussein is creating weapons of mass destruction, and Osama bin Laden is the only person responsible for 9/11. So, you know, he's catering to a specific audience, and he's been successful. He's garnering a lot of attention and views. He's put himself in danger because, you know, when you mess with Muslims, they fight back way too hard, and I don't advocate for that. I condemn any Muslim who tries to hurt somebody just because they're attacking Islam. That's not the way to do it, and I'll get into the details of that in my whole opinion. But we'll watch some of these videos here if you haven't been able to watch them. They've been, I think this stuff is funny, right? I think a lot of Muslims get charged up and angry, and look, a lot of Muslims have a sense of jealousy for the religion. They have a sense of pride. You know, in Arabic, this is called ghira. They have a ghira for the deen. They have jealousy for the religion. And that's admirable. That's commendable. And I think Christians could actually benefit from adopting some of that behavior. But there's a threshold, right? There's a limit to that. And you don't want to go too much and be violent, which a lot of Muslims fall into the mistake of doing. So you play into the narrative and the stereotype that they're trying to perpetuate perfectly. You see Muslims doing that in England and the United Kingdom. And so it's imperative, honestly, for Muslims to watch this and ignore it. And again, like I said, I'll get into it in detail in a moment. Let's watch these videos of Jake Lang. So if you guys don't know, if you've been under a damn rock, the mayor of New York is Muslim. His name is Zohran Mamdani. He's a Shia Muslim. He was just elected recently, and so he's super progressive. He's a socialist. I don't like him. I hate him. I hate his policies. I don't hate him. I think he's actually very likable. I think he's, you know, handsome, smart, funny, witty guy. I think that he's very attractive to be a mayor. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he won, as well as the fact that when he was asked where he would visit in his first tour as mayor, he said the 5 boroughs, not Israel. And everybody else on stage said Israel. So I think that won him a lot of votes and popularity as well, because people are starting to wake up to how our government operates, to say the least. And so I like his demeanor. I like his character. I think he's a very attractive candidate, but I hate his policies. And that's that. And I want to give credit where it's due, right? The guy is smart. He's a good debater. He's well-spoken. He's articulate. He's a good orator. You got to acknowledge that. But let's watch this. This is funny. I digress. So this reads, Jake Lang is bringing an entire roasted pig to Zohran Mamdani's office in the middle of Ramadan. This dude is my hero. Like, bro, what are we doing? So just
stop shit. Fuck you. Fuck you, Fat 47. Fuck you and the camouflage bullshit. Fuck you and the leather jacket. These want to get the fuck out of here.
Walk
this
up
is
there,
not the right city.
This
is
my
not
city.
the right city.
It's a force.
Walk
I got
up,
a pig roast here, guys.
I see that.
You know you're protected because there's cops around here. Keep running your mouth. Keep running your mouth, beta boy.
Yeah.
You don't know. New York City's my city.
White supremacist tattoos, white supremacist flag out there. Get out.
Go. Hey, you're not going to do shit but run your mouth, you beta.
Yes, I am. Beta. Jesus Christ. I'm smarter than you. You measure things in terms of whiteness. I'm more white than you. Yeah. I have more money than you. I'm not here to fight you. I'm not fucking here to fight you.
So
Against that shit.
I suppose a pig is going to repel Muslims as like kryptonite would to that of Superman. I don't understand, you know, like the thought process here. But this is what he does. He does these like provocative acts in the street. He says no more Muslims. He did a whole thing in Texas where he protested outside of a mosque. He says they're terrorists. He puts bacon on a Quran and like burns Qurans. I think maybe he burns Qurans. I don't know. But he does like that whole bit. And it's like, okay, cool. Like you're appealing to the boomer American patriot base, the Iraqi war vets, and many other people who fit into similar categories. But this guy is a Zionist from what I understand. Now, I've seen videos of him like attacking the Talmud, which is Jewish scripture. It's rabbinical commentary of the Torah, or the Hebrew Bible, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And so it's just a subversion. Look, if your main goal is to attack Muslims, and I understand I have a dog in this fight. And so if you don't respect my opinion or want to hear what I have to say about this, that's totally understandable because I am Muslim. But I think that I'm really good at pulling my own bias out of the conversation and giving you guys the honest take. And the honest take here is, if your main goal is to attack Muslims, right, and do this whole anti-Quran, you know, anti-Islam rhetoric, and none of your energy is directed at our government being at war in Iran for the benefit of Israel. None of your energy is directed at the fact that AIPAC funds 90% of members of Congress. If none of your energy is directed at the fact that the ADL can create a new term, and then anybody who's used that term in the past 10 years can get canceled off the face of the planet, or the SPLC, or any of these Zionist-funded think tanks, right? Well, then to me, your opinion is irrelevant. And the reason why is because that's the main perpetuator of the United States being involved in issues that they shouldn't be involved in, which hurts our stage on the international level. It hurts our moral compass on the international level. It hurts us optically. But most of all, that's our tax dollars going into these wars. That's our tax dollars funding these politicians who perpetuate Zionism. And so, sure, it's funny, it's cool, it's, you know, whatever. I understand if you're probably a Christian nationalist or you're a hard right-winger, this stuff is funny, but it ultimately is goy slop. And at the end of the day, Muslim, Christian alike, it doesn't matter. If you are not one of them, and I'm trying to be somewhat discreet here, I'm on YouTube, so forgive me for not being as, you know, implicit or direct as my brother, but if you're not one of them, then you're cattle. You know, you're a non-believer, you're a Gentile. That's the words that they use for you, and they look at you as subhuman. In their theology, they don't believe that we're equal to them. And that can be found in Kabbalah tradition, that can be found in their scripture, that can be found in the Talmud. And so it almost seems like if you are a right-wing Christian, you should still understand there's a greater enemy at hand. There's a greater enemy at play. And so that's why this guy has lost all his credibility. And a lot of people on the right, you know, reject this whole anti-Islam rhetoric because, yeah, it might be cool for some people, but it's not really attacking the main issue here. And I'm a Muslim. I pray. I fast. I do what I need to do as a Muslim. I'm not the most religious Muslim, but, you know, I try to practice. I practice a little more than my brother. And so this stuff doesn't bother me at all. Like, what is the harm of a dumb Christian nationalist walking the streets with bacon inside of his Quran or bacon inside of a Quran saying Muslims don't need to be here and they're terrorists. I look at that and I laugh. And I saw videos of Jake Lang in what I believe was Michigan, specifically Dearborn, and he was doing the same thing. He was doing the whole pig head on top of a Quran and putting bacon in the Quran, and there were Muslims that were physically attacking him, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, ignore him. You do realize this guy would have no attention or popularity if Muslims looked at him and did exactly what I do, which is laugh. Why does it matter? We're not in a Muslim country. Unfortunately, what he's doing is legal. We have freedom of speech. We have freedom of expression. He can do that. If you attack him, you get charged. If you attack him, you look dumb. You fell for the bait. What's worse for this guy optically? A Muslim punching him in the face, and proving him right, or a Muslim watching him do what he does and laugh? You know, so it's imperative and it's important that Muslims understand this and don't get emotionally charged up. You have jealousy for your religion, you value your religion, good, go pray in the mosque. You know, if you want to give da'wah indirectly. What's a good form of da'wah? What's a good form of spreading your religion? Looking at a guy like this in the face and laughing at him when he has slices of bacon inside of pages of the Quran. Looking at him and laughing when he roasts a pig and brings it to Mamdani's office. This is like cosplay, goofy, low IQ, silly shit. But we legitimize it when we attack people like this. We actually give it credibility. We give it weight. We should be laughing at this. And this guy's only doing it to Muslims because it's safe and because it's lucrative to do this to Muslims. You do gain this hard right-wing alt audience that hates Islam. But the problem is that audience is low IQ because they don't actually recognize the real enemy. So let these guys perpetuate their loser mentality. They're on the losing side of politics. They don't understand how the world works. And if they do, they're too afraid to admit it. So you can line it up however you want. At the end of the day, these guys are taking an L in totality. Nothing that they're doing is actually beneficial to moving the needle, to helping our country, to changing our power structure, which is hijacked by a foreign government in a foreign country. And so that's kind of the main issue here. That's the whole reason why, you know, we do what we do. That's why all these voices have gained so much credibility and speed in the last few months. That of Myron, that of Sneeko, that of Nick, and so others. So this guy is a clown. I don't know why people legitimize him by getting mad. I think it's funny. And at the end of the day, man, the Quran is the word of God directly verbatim. But if somebody burns a Quran, if somebody does that, you know, God is to be dealing with him. God will deal with him. Why do you feel the need to go attack him? The Quran is memorized by millions of Muslims worldwide. We don't even need the physical book. It's in our heads, right? And that's kind of the mindset you should adopt when you see people like this. So I'm against Muslims attacking these Christian nationalists who do provocative things in the street. I think it makes us look bad. I think that we're playing into debate. I think we should ignore these people. You know, we should stay silent. We should watch them. We should think it's funny. But a lot of Muslims are too stupid and really dumb. They don't realize that what you're doing is perpetuating his narrative farther. You are adding oxygen to his flame. How are they doing that? We'll take a look at this video. So this reads here. Muslim terrorist just threw a nail bomb. If you don't know what a nail bomb is, it's an explosive device embedded with nails, and when it detonates, it sends shrapnel flying everywhere. This can kill or seriously injure somebody. And so I don't know who threw the nail bomb. I haven't seen details, but it seems like it was a Muslim because there were a couple official statements from news outlets in New York. And I think they apprehended the suspects and arrested them. But some Muslim threw a nail bomb at Jake Lang as he was doing this whole protest. And this is what it looked like.
Support the white liberal
I ain't gonna lie, the them niggas got out of there. They got moving. It went from tough guy to see you later. But look, you throw a nail bomb, that can kill somebody. So understandable. But it's just funny, you know, you play the tough guy act and then somebody really gets violent and now it's like, whoa, bro, chill.
Somebody threw a fucking bomb, bro.
That was a yeah, that was a nail bomb. You seen it? That's
Holy
a nail bomb.
shit.
What's a nail bomb?
Yeah. So you can see it here. I think they zoom in.
Yeah, that was a nail bomb.
Jesus is king, and he made that nail bomb didn't
So
go
you
off.
should be able to see it. Yeah, so that's it right there. So I'm not really familiar with the anatomy of a nail bomb, but presumably it's an explosive device with nails surrounding the shell, or nails being the shell, and so when it explodes, it sends them flying everywhere. Shame on whoever threw this. And I'll tell you why. And I get it. Jake Lang is poking the bear and he's been disrespectful and he disrespects the Prophet. He disrespects Islam. And he does it every day and he makes money doing it. So what? What do you gain from doing this? What do you gain from hurting somebody who talks bad about Islam? Because when you hurt that person, then the people who were on the fence, the people who straddled the line, the people in the middle, the people who didn't care, will now find his narrative more suiting to the truth, more fitting to the truth, which is Muslims are terrorists. Okay, I don't know if that's true. Oh, wait, a Muslim just threw a nail bomb at this guy and killed him or hurt him. Yeah, they are terrorists. We have to be better. We have to be better. So, again, I understand he's being provocative. I understand Muslims are highly jealous of their religion, but don't be stupid. Do not punch him. Do not attack him. We are in the United States. If you don't like somebody talking negatively about your religion, I have a news for you. I have a news flash for you. You got to go. You can't be here if you can't deal with that. That's a part of our Constitution. That's a part of our creed as United States. As Americans, if somebody wants to talk poorly about your religion, unfortunately, they have the ability to do so. Now, what you can do to make these people look dumb is educate yourself and have dialogue with them. That's how things are conducted in democracy. We live in a democracy. If you don't like that and you want somebody to be stoned or hung or killed or imprisoned for talking bad about your religion, fair enough. Go to Dubai, go to the UAE, go to Kuwait, go to these Gulf countries, go to Egypt. These countries will gladly get people in trouble for talking badly about Islam in public the way Jake Lang does. And provocative people like that get punished over there. But here, that's not the case. So you've got to IQ mog them. You've got to have debates with these people. If I see Jake Lang, I'm not going to throw a nail bomb at him. I'm going to say, hey man, good to meet you. You want to have some dialogue as to why you have these opinions about Islam? And I'm armed with that. I understand my religion. So every claim he makes about chapter 8 says you can kill the infidels, and here it says that you can marry an underage girl in chapter 64, verse 5, and whatever. It's like, I've heard all that. So I can combat that. I can diffuse that. I can refute that. But you as a Muslim, do you have the ability to do that? Let me ask you something. If you're a Muslim, do you have the ability to refute somebody if they attack your religion and say that it's terroristic or it's pedophilic? Or that's fine that you don't disagree with that or you agree with that, whatever it is. Do you have the ability to refute it? If the answer is no, why are you getting violent? Because you don't actually have the intellectual capability to shut these people down. And what looks better optically than if somebody's attacking Islam and you're a Muslim and you're in the streets and you see them having this protest and doing this civilian uprising and charging people against Muslims and having bacon in the Quran and having a pig head on top of a Quran and burning a Quran? What looks better than you having interfaith dialogue with them? I'm not saying you got to shake their hand. I'm not saying you got to be buddy-buddy, but you need to be somebody that can refute this stuff in a calm way. Why? Those on the middle, those on the side, those watching will go, damn, that Muslim's pretty smart. Damn, he made Islam look a lot better than it's looked in the last 20 years. We already deal with a foreign entity that has fueled mainstream media news sources economically to make us look bad. That being Fox News, CNN at one point. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Like, a certain class of people benefit greatly from us looking like terrorists and Christians hating us because this is a majority Christian nation. And so the best thing we can do is lay down our arms, lay down our hands, lay down our nail bombs, unbelievable, and have dialogue with these people, make them look stupid. And if you're not going to have dialogue with them and make them look dumb, if you're not going to prove them wrong with your intellect or your IQ, fair enough, keep walking. What does that guy change about your life at all? And it's crazy that I even have to say this, but Muslims really fall for this bait. So we have to be better. We have to be better as Muslims. We're a minority in the United States. So one Muslim doing something makes a large impact. There's a big ripple effect. If a Muslim attacks somebody, if a Muslim fights somebody because he said something about the Prophet, you know, the people who are going to read that news source probably don't know many Muslims. They may not. Depends where you live. Yeah, if you live in Texas, if you live in Houston, you might know a few. But if you live in Idaho, you live in Montana, you live in the Midwest, you live in Nebraska, you live somewhere in California, you may not know a lot of Muslims. So it's upon us to make our religion look good. And you want to do dawah, you want to spread Islam the way it should look, then don't throw nail bombs at people wrapping bacon around a Quran. You look like an idiot. And you've proved him right. So that's very important. That's something that I wanted to say. So for all my Muslims watching, seriously, IQ max, get smarter, understand your religion better, and refute these people in the way we do as a country, as an American would do. That's with dialogue. Do not get physical. Do not get violent. Dumb people do that shit anyways. A stupid person will hear something they don't like and attack you. A smart person will hear something they don't like and say, I don't agree, and here's why. If you don't have the ability to do that, that's fine. Not everybody's born with that ability. Totally fine. Ignore it. That's not your lane. That's not your battle to fight. If you really believe in the retribution of God, if you really believe in this whole idea of revenge and the day of judgment, beautiful. Then believe it. and actually show that in your actions. Let that manifest in your actions. If you believe that God is going to punish somebody for attacking your religion, totally fine. Let that be shown in your actions. Let that manifest in the way you act. That means ignoring these people, understanding God will deal with them justly. This is another video. This guy is a jester, you know, like, and I get so mad that Muslims actually give him heat and Muslims actually give him oxygen. Look at this. So it says, I genuinely find this thing comedic. Jake Lang just crashed the vigil for Ayatollah Khamenei in New York, showing up with a goat and saying Muslims must get out. All right, bro, this is pretty funny. Like, and again, if this is offending you, you need to have a serious moment of reflection. Really, you have to, because this is so stupid. This guy does not move the needle at all unless you respond to this type of behavior, which Muslims are doing. It's like, don't respond to this. Don't, like, ignore him.
Kamani! Kamani's a goat fucker! Kamani likes to fuck goats! The Muslims need to get out of NYC!
Poor goat, bro. The fuck is this nigga doing? What is he doing, bro? And again, I don't mean to pedestalize myself. I see stuff like this and immediately I'm diffused. I don't even react to it because I know that this guy is not intelligent. This guy is stupid. Like, he's not smart. Like, would a smart person do what he's doing? Highly provocative, silly jester behavior. He is quite literally jester maxing. You know what I mean? So to react to this and to give it fuel, to give it oxygen is like, you're also as dumb as him because you can't see through the play. You can't see through this. You know, look at this guy. He's making the goat suffer, screaming in the goat's ear. He's got flash everywhere, blasting music. Like, he looks bad right now. But if we respond to this and we get mad and we get charged up, it's like, you vindicated him. You proved him right. So my advice to Muslims is to ignore this. You know? And what actual clout does Jake Lang have? Go to your workplace and ask anybody, do you know who Jake Lang is? He's a nobody. He's a jester maxer. He loves the performance. He loves the provocative behavior. He doesn't even know apologetics. I'm sure he can't defend the Bible. I'm sure he can't defend Christianity. I'm sure he has no legitimate arguments for Islam. If he does, they're terrible. I know I'm smarter than this guy. That's why I don't react to this, right? Obviously, I'm reacting to it on stream, but that's to give a greater lesson. But like, if I saw this in person, I would keep walking. You know, I think this is like foolish. This is low IQ behavior. But it is funny, you know, to see how it's just funny, you know. Like,
A bunch of goat raping pedophiles! Get Kamani! Get Somalia out! Get these Muslims out of our city! We will not allow these people to continue to rape and pillage our city! USA! 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 USA!
and look, there's people actually giving him oxygen.
USA! 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 USA!
You know, and he's racking up views. I think this got 2.7 million views. And this is the statement about the Muslims who threw the nail bomb at him.
Identified as Amir Balat, an 18-year-old man, lit and threw an ignited device toward the protest area, landing in the crosswalk of East 87th Street and East End Avenue. Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers. Mr. Balat then ran southbound on East End Avenue toward 86th Street and gets a second device from a man tentatively ID'd as Ibrahim Nick, 19 years old. Mr. Balat lights the device and starts running with it. He then drops the device on the west side of East End Avenue between East 86th and East 87th Streets. Officers immediately secured the area and they took both men into custody. This was all captured on NYPD Argus.
And these two Muslim kids are dumbasses, absolute idiots. Stupid. Why? You know what I mean? And I just monologued over it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes straight, and so I don't want to keep beating the dead horse, but why? Ignore these people. This is stupid. You know? Ignore these people. There's also no commandment Islamically. There's absolutely nothing that exists in Islamic literature that tells you to attack people physically who impose your religion or oppose it and attack it verbally. There's no law. If you live in a Muslim country that's governed by Muslims, then that's their decision to make. But for you, as a layman, as a regular citizen, there's no Islamic basis for this. And if you think you are, and you think there is, if you think there's credibility to that, you are the problem. You are the problem. You're Khariji, you're Khawarij, you're an issue. We need to move away from this, fight this vocal protest, fight these provocative behaviors with violence. Low IQ, that's slop. Do not do that. So, really disappointed with whatever the kid's name was, Amir. And he's 18, right? He's a kid, but Muslim parents, we have to raise our Muslims not to do stupid shit like this. Who cares what this dude does? Look, I mean, bro, it's just...
What the fuck?
He's jester. Like, is this really... And maybe I'm just too smart. I don't know. This stuff does not bother me. Maybe I'm just too smart. I don't know.
What is wrong with these people? Mandami needs to be castrated.
Mandami. Like, and why is he calling for the castration of a man who did nothing to him? You know, this guy is actually calling for violence. He's his dummy. Let him talk to himself. You know, he's a nobody.
Holy shit! This Muslim sympathy is mine. What the fuck?
You know, so the guy's obviously not talented enough to do what I'm doing, jump on a stream and actually monologue or talk about issues in the world and make sense to it. The guy's not able to start a show. The guy's not able to gain power in politics and legislate and move the needle and create policies. This is the maximum of his capabilities, which is take to the streets, wear U.S. military uniform-ish. I don't even know what the hell he's wearing. Wear the American flag and say, death to Muslims, and, you know, like this whole redneck Midwest kind of talking point thing. And so I don't understand why anybody finds legitimacy. He's only blown up in popularity recently because of these provocative things he's doing. It's the same thing with, like, what was that guy's name that used to... Boot Gang. Remember Boot Gang in like 2017? The guy who would jump into a gas station and just like throw aisles on the ground and spill drinks everywhere and hop over a Dunkin' Donuts counter and steal donuts. And he went viral for that. And the guy's changed his ways now. Good for him. But I bring him up to make a greater point and an example that people who do provocative shit like this for attention understand that their relevance in mainstream media or alternative media is short-lived. As long as you ignore this guy, he'll diffuse himself. Right? So... message to the Muslims, if anyone wants to clip this up. Muslims, stop attacking these people. Really stupid. You're playing into the narrative. No one cares about them. No one who's smart follows them. Jake Lang is a dumbass. He's an idiot. He doesn't understand anything. He doesn't know how the world works. His only ability at garnering attention is to jump to the streets and scream, Muslims kill people. Muslims are rapists. Muslims are horrible. I have a pig in my hand. I have bacon inside the Quran. I'm moving the needle. If that's the maximum of his capabilities, give him no airtime. Anyways, I want to move on. We'll read some super chats and then we'll get into the next story about Iran. But yeah, bro, it's like stuff like that gets me mad because I don't get mad at Jake Lang. I get mad at the Muslims actually reacting to it. Because if you looked at the videos in Dearborn, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. See if I can find the clip of.
You can't burn it.
So, look at this. This is him in Dearborn. So he's got lighter fluid in his hands. I'm assuming he's trying to burn a Quran, right?
You can't burn it, man. You can't burn it.
It's America.
Don't say you can't burn it.
It's America.
Don't say you can't burn it.
This is America.
Okay, we
That's
don't
not
respect
property.
America.
That's
We don't respect America.
This is
We don't respect them. No.
I'm laughing because he ducked, bro. Thought he was about to get smacked.
We don't respect.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on it after. We'll watch the video.
No. Listen. We don't respect America.
We got another Quran. I'll go get a different one. We got another bacon. We go.
Yo, if you guys don't know, Dearborn, Michigan has like an insane Arab Muslim population. A lot of Arab Christians there as well, but an insane Arab Muslim population. So like, look, here's him burning Jewish scripture as well.
Oh my God!
Americans against Islamification. Like, it's just really cringe. This guy is cringe.
And lighter fluid. So he goes to try to set it on fire. Someone takes it away. Now let me just show you.
Okay. This is his thing in... Oh, this is Dearborn. Look at this. Look at this. What the fuck are you doing, bro? Don't do this. This is so stupid. So here he is. He's holding up this banner, Americans against Islamification. So why is he saying Americans against Islamification? Because Muslims are terrorists and they're pedophiles and so whatever, right? You would think if you're smart and you're Muslim, oh, let me just ignore this guy. Let me drive to the mosque that's constitutionally protected, by the way. Freedom of religion is very evident in the United States. We get to practice our religion freely, thank God. Let me drive to the mosque. Let me pray on time. Let me do my salah. Let me do my zakat. Let me pay my charity. No, let me punch this guy who's attacking my religion and perpetuate his narrative further. Look at this. What are you doing? What are you doing? I caught that nigga though. But really, like, I'm joking. Stupid. And this is a kid, right? He's a kid. He doesn't know better. Looks like he's in Yemen. Looks like he's from Yemen. You know, Yemeni people have hearts of lions. God bless them. But again, you're hurting us. Nick Fuentes does not like that the Muslim population of the United States is increasing. And so what does Nick say? We need to gain control of politics. We need to gain control and legislative power. We need to get inside the government, infiltrate, and stop immigration. Or we need to vote for people who will stop immigration. See, if you don't like Muslims, or you don't like the Islamification of America, or you don't like the fact that the Muslim population is growing, fine. Attack it from a legislative perspective. That's why people respect Nick. That's why Nick has so much more of a following than this guy, because he actually is going about it the right way. Why would you ever give somebody like this oxygen? Look at this guy. He's a dumbass. Did you really take him serious? 1.1 to 1.3, I believe it is, % of the United States is Muslims. So does the United States actually have a Muslim problem? No. Europe, you can argue Europe actually has a big Muslim problem because they've taken over. But that's the white people's battle to fight. White people have their government subverted by a certain class of people, and they call for immigration. That's been the case in the United States ever since the 50s and the 60s, the Hart-Celler Act and so on. There have been more immigrants here. You don't like that? Change the policy, gain power. Nick does it the right way. Now, do I think Nick hates Muslims? No. I think Nick is actually really fair for Muslims. Excuse me. Fasting. Okay. Give me some grace. I think Nick is actually very fair towards Muslims in the fact that he says, look, I don't hate them. I love everybody, but I want my country to feel like America. I want my country to feel like it's my people surrounding me. I don't want to be alienated. I don't want this alienation of culture or religion to enter my country. That's fair. I can understand him. Do I agree with him? No, I'm Muslim, but can I understand him 100%? Yes. And can I get behind the message of America first, less immigration? It's not benefited us anymore. Immigration used to benefit us. Now it's hurting us. 100% I'm behind that message. So there's ways to go about this. Don't give a dumbass like this any oxygen. He's an idiot, right? And he's also potentially paid opposition. Who knows who's in his pockets? Potentially Zionists. I think there's a clip of this guy kissing the wall, touching the wall. I don't know. I don't follow him. I don't pay attention to anything he does, but I've seen that on X a few times scrolling through my page. And so there's that as well. Did you really trust this guy? You know, maybe that's not true, but he might as well kiss the wall because he's doing their bidding. And what's their bidding? They want division. They want Muslims and Christians to fight. That's the goal of the Zionist lobby. That's the goal of Zionist lobbyists. That's the goal of Israel. That's the goal of anybody who has Israel's favor in their mind, at the forefront of their mind. They want Muslims and Christians to hate each other. Because if Muslims and Christians ever built this alliance or this coalition, and we set aside our differences for 10 minutes really like a few years, and we actually faced a common enemy, we would be a lot more powerful. There would be a shift inside of the United States, right? And this guy is trying to perpetuate that division. He's trying to drive a wedge further between Muslims and Christians. And it works when you punch him. It works when you scream at him. It works when you retweet his stuff. Ignore him. I react to this solely for the fact that he's already garnered massive amount of attention. I react to this solely for the fact that I want to educate Muslims as to how to go about these situations. That's why this is important to me. Pay this guy no mind. You know what I mean? Here's him doing his march. There's other clips of Muslims attacking him and punching him. And like I said, I get it. He's poking the bear, but pick and choose your battles. You know? So that's that. So, okay, here it is. So this is him in Israel kissing. I mean, bro, come on, bro. I mean, you know what I mean? It's almost frustrating for me to have to continuously explain this, but I think a lot of Muslims need to hear this and they'd benefit from being educated by what I'm saying. And that's that this guy is opposition. He's paid. Don't look at him. Look beyond him. Look past him. There's nothing that he's doing that's moving the needle. He has no political power. The only influence he has grows when you do exactly what he wants, which is to do his bidding and attack him. He wants you to attack him because he's vindicated in that. So, but yeah, my boy all up on that wall. God damn. I know that check was fat. Getting paid real good. And by the way, guys, all these like anti-Islam, Muslims are doing this, Muslims are doing that. It's almost always this is the case. Right? It's almost that they either are that class of people or they're heavily funded by that class of people. What does that tell you? Use your brain. Put on your thinking cap, not the tinfoil one. Put on your thinking cap. Think with me for just a moment. If the only people who perpetuate this narrative of Muslims being terrorists and Muslims being pedophilic and Muslims taking over the United States, which they're not. Maybe Europe, you can make the argument that there's too many of them, but here that's just not the case. It has not materialized whatsoever yet. It's not even close. And so if somebody's spreading this idea and they're giving it light, they either are that class of people or they're paid by that class of people. What does that tell you? That class of people doesn't want Muslims and Christians to recognize there's a common enemy right in front of them. So, as Sneeko and Nick say, the Goyim must unite. This guy does not want the Goyim to unite, right? But I love my Christian brothers and sisters. I have no problem with Christians. They share a majority of the United States. There's churches everywhere. So I pay my respects to the religion. I worship who I believe to be the true God. I follow my own religion, but I would love if Christians could shake our hand for a moment and say, hey, you know, we kind of recognize you guys aren't as much of an issue as it's been made out to be. And then we can cover a lot of ground. So we must ignore idiots like this. We must ignore him. But that boy got the 7K. That boy got the 7K. He got that 7K. Yeah. Is this real? I don't know. Somebody fact check. I mean, this is just crazy. Like, dude, he's got the whole stringy hand thing, the whole cube on the head, the whole thing. Like, he's got the full pack, the full wash and set. And allegedly this guy is Christian? Yeah, no, you're not. Christ does not approve. Christ does not approve. Christ condemns this action. Christ condemns this. We're just having a good time. But seriously, let's read some chats and then we'll get into the Iran updates. You liking the stream so far or what? I think we're having a good time. Okay. Okay. Ken Rose for the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Chev Number says, you and Myron changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. Thank you both and keep sharing your knowledge. Hey, bro, God bless you. I'm glad we've actually proved to help. Thank you for the huge super chat. Prado $, thank you so much. Daily Griff says, everyone forgets we turned our back on the Kurds like 2017 or 2019 last time. Why? Nobody mentioning this. And what about the 61 million tons of potential gold discovered in, what the hell are those emojis? Israel in late 2025? Iran. I'm an idiot. Okay. Yeah, but I don't understand the point you're making, man. What I do know is the United States and Israel weaponizes Kurds to do their bidding in the Middle East as a proxy group. We've done that historically in Syria and Iraq, and now we're going to do it in Iran. That's why the Kurds are getting bombed in the north by drones right now. 213 Killzone. Jake is not a Christian. I want everybody to know he is pro-Zionist. He doesn't represent us Christian Americans. And hey, 213 Killzone, God bless you. I know that. Thank you for the chat. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way or a degrading way to you. I know that, but a lot of people don't, right? And so I know there's many Christians who see what he does and they're going, what are you doing? You're an idiot, right? But that's why I'm doing this segment. That's why I'm kind of going over this, because I want to push that message further. So God bless you, man. I agree. Halus, Catholic Ex-Muslim Coalition. What did you think of the Catholic woman that got fired for rejecting Zion? I saw that and that was crazy, but God bless her for her bravery. Yeah, man, I want to align. I have no, bro, I don't want to fight Christians. I don't want to debate them on their religion. I don't want to fight them. I don't want to attack their creed. Do I agree with it? No, but I don't want to fight. I want to build an alliance. I think we'd be stronger together. I think if we practiced our religion separately from one another, we didn't do this whole theology thing. Like, it doesn't have to be theology all the time. Can we just come to common ground on some moral aspect, which I think is very easy for Muslims and Catholics or Muslims and Christians to do? I don't want to do this whole fight thing. I think it doesn't help anything. I think it's stupid. The Crusader, it's all low IQ shit, bro. Bro, so stupid. John says, hey, Riyadh, I wrote a book about them boys, Zionism in Palestine. It's a crash course in them boys. I DM'd you on Insta from one of your last streams. Okay, bet. If your Instagram is your name, I'll find it. Bro, my DMs have exploded, so I haven't even gotten a chance to look. I'll try to find that. As a Christian, we don't claim this, Ninja. Keep up the good work. Hope Big Bro gets home safe. God bless. Yeah, hopefully he has a safe flight. And yeah, I know a lot of high IQ Christians, or just Christians in general, don't claim this, but he's an idiot. Look, Christians are meant to spread love. You know, Christians are not supposed to be people who physically impose or economically oppose or politically impose people. There's no benefit to it. It has no grounding or foundational legitimacy in Christian creed or Catholicism. And so for that reason, I understand, and I understand Christianity relatively well. I have a thorough understanding of the basis of it. And so I know what he's doing is not representative of the religion. It's just I'm kind of giving a political spiel here, a political spin as to why this guy's a dumbass. From the religious aspect, there's no weight to it. He's an idiot. There's no gravity at all. Debbie Dior, Myron changed my life. Thankful you're here. Love y'all both. Hey, bro, we love you too, and I'm glad we changed your life. I hope we can continue to offer value and educate you guys, red pill you guys, whatever. We love Myron. Okay, let's get into Iran. Like the video if you haven't already, please. But Muslims, if you're a Muslim watching this and you clip that up. I don't even want the clout. I just want to send that message. Clip that out. Because it's very important we understand that. All right? Hey, look at my brother. Taking a picture with a fan. Great. Shout out to K-Blaze. Great event. Last debate with Chick was unsufferable. Shout out to my brother. And buy his new book. Okay? Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Buy his new book. It's Why Women Deserve Less. Really good read. My favorite book. This is the new one, Why Women Deserve Even More Less. This guy has the original copy, version 1, Why Women Deserve Less. Very informative books. A lot of men could benefit from reading it. And although the title is very provocative, the contents of the book are actually pretty sensible. They're very sensible. Very red-pilling, very important information to understand. Not to weaponize against women or people, but to have a better understanding of the world, to give yourself a greater advantage over those around you or next to you. So, oh damn, college students are getting canceled for taking pictures with my brother. Nice. All right, well, I'm not going to show this tweet because I don't want to get the guy further doxxed. All right. Let's see what Trump says.
School in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people.
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
So, for some context, I think on the second day of the war, Sunday morning, we had bombed. I'm saying we because I'm assuming it was United States, Israel joint strike, but we bombed an elementary school and now have a confirmed kill count of, or murder count rather, I should say, of 175 people, many of them being schoolgirls. So, see what Trump has to say about that.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
Is it just me or this guy's got like a really evil look to him? One that I don't see in Trump. There's just something about this guy. Rubs me the wrong way. I get a dark energy from him. I don't mean to do the whole spiritual like thing. That I know that's gay, but seriously.
We think it was done. We think it was done by Iran.
Can you give us an idea?
Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions.
Oh yeah, they're inaccurate. All right, we're gonna take a look at that in a moment. Sure, they're inaccurate. They're inaccurate, but Israel is just sounding the alarm right now.
They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Yeah, Iran blew up a school, a school full of young adolescent girls to send a message, right? Sure they did. So, let's read this article here. You know, I'll go over a Truth Social post by Trump as well. Oh, do we have some more chats? I want to read these before we segue. I don't want these to collect dust. My point is it possible we are there for rare earth and gold? Okay, so you're asking, is the United States involved in the Middle East for gold or other rare earth materials? Yeah, there's something to benefit from there in that regard, potentially. But the trade-off, the risk to reward, the return on investment isn't there. So I don't think that's the main reason. It's to do Israel's bidding. You can say that, but that's really a minutia in regards or compared to everything else. But I see what you're saying. All right, so here's an article written by Politico. It says Trump vows to hit very hard after Iran's president says he won't surrender. Great. That's exactly what you want to hear from a country that you're bombing the crap out of. So this reads, President Donald Trump announced plans to launch yet more strikes against Iran on Saturday, escalating his threats as the conflict with Iran enters its second week. Today is the first day of the second week. Today, Iran will be hit very hard, quote. He wrote on Truth Social Saturday morning, under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior. Are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. So now he's saying the whole country's greenlit, I suppose. Trump's threat came after Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian labeled the president's earlier call for Tehran's unconditional surrender a dream that they should take to their grave. Yeah, that's exactly what you want to hear. So these guys are not demoralized at all. We've charged them up. We put a battery in their back, as I said would happen in a speech broadcast on state television Saturday. Pezeshkian also said his country would no longer strike its neighbors in the Middle East, so long as attacks against Iran weren't being launched from those countries. So he's saying if the Gulf countries don't help the United States in attacking us with missiles or anything else, then we'll stop hitting them. Although it seems like they're still hitting them, but that may have stopped just a few hours ago, or yesterday rather. Trump took credit for the new policy, writing on Truth Social, it was only made because of the relentless U.S. and Israeli attack. It's the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries, Trump said. Quote, they have said, thank you, Mr. President Trump, end quote. I'm sure they all said that. Not paid people, not paid assets, not secular Persians that no one cares about. Anyways, I have said you're welcome. Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. Hold on, wait. Iran was never the bully of the Middle East. Anyways, they are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or more likely complete collapse. The White House launched its operation in tandem with Israel last Saturday with a barrage of strikes that killed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as well as multiple senior officials in the country. Trump has since insisted on a total surrender and pushed for a voice in selecting the country's next supreme leader. This war is for regime change. I've said this millions of times, so have others. There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender, the president wrote on Friday on Truth Social. After that, in the selection of great and acceptable leaders, we and many of our wonderful, brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. 6 American troops have been killed since the start of the conflict. That number is actually subject to be much higher, but none of it is confirmed yet. Trump traveled to Delaware's Dover Air Force Base on Saturday to witness the dignified transfer of their bodies. Some of you probably saw that on X. Amid the Middle East conflict, gas prices were up by 32 cents a gallon on Friday as compared to a week prior, and the price of a barrel of crude oil had jumped more than $20. I think it's around $100 now for a barrel of oil from the beginning of the year. The largest one-week leap in history. The price shocks are largely being attributed to chaos at the Strait of Hormuz, a vital transit lane for 20% of the world's crude oil that Iran, by the way, has complete autonomy over with Oman, although they have a much stronger military, so you do with that what you will. The president told reporters aboard Air Force One on Saturday, that's what we just watched, he was not worried about rising gas prices brought along by the war. Instead, he insisted the U.S. and Israel did the world a favor by going after Iran. All right, I'm done. I can't even read this anymore. So Trump is now, and this is what's happening, okay? I'll tell you what's happening. Trump is slowly hinting at the fact that this war was not to remove this terrorist regime and do the world a favor. He's indirectly kind of implying that this is doing Israel's bidding. Why? He's hinting at the idea of a new leader being planted. Now, whether that's Reza Mohammad Pahlavi, who was a descendant of the Shah regime prior to 1979, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, that we caused, by the way, in 1953 via CIA and Mossad operatives working in Iran for a coup d'etat or to launch a coup d'etat, something that the United States endlessly has been doing in history, which has gained us the #1 spot in the world. I understand that, but it's obvious that this war is for regime change. It's obviously evident that we want to plant somebody at the top of the pyramid and not have them climb a ladder. We want democratic control over the Iranian people, and we want a Israel favorable government inside of Iran so Israel can do their bidding in their greater Israel project. That's the whole idea here. But it's really difficult for Trump to keep up the narrative that this has any United States interest. And you saw Brian McGinnis, the Marine Corps veteran, stand up against the Senate or the senator, I think on, what was that, Thursday? And you're seeing backlash from the public, old and young. And it's going to be very difficult for Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, of course, to defend this war as time goes on. And they're flirting with the idea now of boots on ground. If you weren't aware, before this war started, Trump or White House officials or some word from the White House via mainstream media news outlets had hinted at the fact that this war may take somewhere around 4 or 5 days. It won't be too long. And then it went up to a couple weeks, and now it's up to a month. And there have been statements coming out in mainstream media news outlets that this war could be 100 days or longer. Intelligence assets had met in Florida to plan out the war and the steps incrementally to take control of the IRGC and completely eradicate their presence. These statements were coming out from the beginning of the week, and I saw them. I wasn't sure if it was confirmed. I mentioned this on last stream, but now we know they're expecting this war to be several months. So this went from 4 days to several months. We're trying to initiate a regime change. The reason why this is just completely political suicide for Trump is, of course, it's unfavorable. But what have we seen prior in other countries? And I said this before, but I'll say it again if we have new people in the chat or new people watching the stream. Every single time we try and commit regime change in the Middle East, whether it's Syria or it's Iraq or it's another country, we find that not only do we destabilize the country and we kill thousands, if not millions of innocents, we saw that in Libya, we saw that in Syria under the Obama administration, but we also create a power vacuum for instability. This causes uprising from random factions or random military groups or military support groups in neighboring regions or that region itself. And the IRGC is still very present. They have 200,000 armed guards on the ground ready to defend their underground missile building sites. So what we're finding, we're bombing the country and we're not really seeing a slowdown from the military offensive being directed towards Israel, as well as the fact that the Iranian president had just said, we're going to stop attacking the Gulf countries. That also has a double undertone or a double meaning there. That means we're probably going to focus everything on Israel. Israel has already been struggling to keep up with Iranians' ballistic missiles. As we know, Iran has some of the most complex missile systems in the world. Really, in the Middle East, they have the best. They don't have intercontinental missiles, but they have missiles that can reach Israel in the matter of 10 seconds. Those being the Fatah 1s and the Fatah 2s. That's what they're called. They're hypersonic. They travel incredibly fast. So the United States is going to have to arm up Israel as well as their supply of defense weapons to stop these missiles. The problem is they're not effective at doing it. The THAAD systems are already getting hit in Jordan. I'll show you guys that in a moment. But all of our programs, all of our weapons that's meant to defend Israel's airspace, that being the Iron Defense Dome or the Iron Dome and others, are not proving credible or not proving applicable or really capable of stopping these missiles. We're seeing strikes on the ground in Israel. We're seeing Tel Aviv being turned to ruins in some aspects. I see videos coming out of Israel of it looking like Gaza. It's being leveled to the ground. And of course, Israeli media works very hard to suppress this information. I think there's still policy where they arrest people for posting these videos. They want to make it look like they're not losing. They want to make it look like Iran's not doing any damage. But as we know, Iran is fighting kind of an uphill battle since they're fighting against the United States and Israel. So everybody's going down with them. They're going to use every single bit of their military capability to make sure that if they go down, the pain is felt with that. So boots on ground is being introduced because as we're destroying all of their military assets, their infrastructure, their leadership, they still have military capability. Why? They rely on the missiles. These missiles are built underground. These missile systems present underground. They exist underground. So for us to immobilize them or numb their idea or numb their ability to send these missiles over the Persian Gulf to these Gulf countries as well as Israel, which is where they're going to focus now per the president's statement, we're going to have to put boots on ground. Me and my brother had said this in prior streams. It's not feasible to destroy or decapitate the Ayatollah regime in entirety and the IRGC from the air. How do we know this? Look to history. It didn't work in Syria. It didn't work in Iraq. It didn't work in any other country like Libya. Why do you think it would work against a country that is stronger than all of those countries I just listed by tenfold? It's not going to be possible. It's not easy to do that. I get it. The United States has the best jets. The United States has the best bombs. Totally understand, and I totally agree with you. That doesn't mean we can just destroy a country that has built their military presence on United States air power, meaning they have geared up their offensive ability to launch these missiles in response to United States and Israeli retaliation. How? They've done their homework. They've watched every single one of their neighbors in the region get destroyed, get regime changed, get decapitated. So they said, we're never going to be able to compete with the United States and Israel in the air. Let's go underground. They can't catch us from there. And if I'm not mistaken, the B-2 stealth bomber is one of the only U.S. military weapons that we can use to actually penetrate underground, these bunker busting bombs or whatever they're called, and actually do damage to their military infrastructure. Here's the problem. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. So we have to find where these places are. Then we have to bomb them, and we have to hope the bombs work. And we have to hope we can hit every single place. It's estimated that there can be thousands of missile carriers underground in several different places spread out throughout the country. And think, if you're Iran, Are you going to put all your missiles in one spot to make it super easy for the United States to find them and stop them? No, you're going to spread them throughout your very large, rough, mountainous terrain of a country. So if they get one, there's plenty more where that came from, and they're going to have to go across the country to find the next one. So again, I'm not saying we cannot destroy their capability of launching these missiles, but as long as we can, Israel is going to be subject to violence or subject to these attacks. But we have to work very hard and probably lose a lot of U.S. personnel in this war. And all for what? It's all for one country. And then, you know, we've said that on prior streams, so I don't want to go too hard on that. I want to keep the video monetized, but that's that, you know. So let's look at his Truth Social post here. This reads, I'm like increasingly frustrated with Trump and his statements, and it's like disrespectful to the American people to try to even keep up this narrative at this point, but I digress. So it says, Iran, which is being beat to hell, and they're hitting Tehran hard, I'll admit, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors. No, they haven't apologized. The president said himself, look, we're done attacking these guys. We've had our fun. Now we're going to focus on Israel, which means that's shit news for you. You better up your air defense because Israel's about to get hit. They're going to narrow down all of these missiles they spend millions of dollars on to Israel. So that's bad news for you, not for them. The Gulf countries are not in their interest. They did that just to cause more division amongst the Middle East and push the Arab Gulf countries away from us, which we've seen. So their plan worked, and you're trying to pit it against them. Actually, that plan was to hurt the relationship between us and the Gulf countries. Effectively, they've done that. So good try there. But anyways, and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless U.S. and Israeli attack. Yeah, sure it was. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East. It is the first time, by the way, we know what country wants to rule the Middle East, okay? There's no secret in that. It is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, thank you, President Trump. I have said, you're welcome. Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or more likely completely collapse. Again, in the language. It went from, in 2011, well, they've got nuclear bombs and they can't have a bomb. And then Obama made the whole plan work to at least halt their nuclear program. And so you come in and you sabotage that nuclear program. Now they can make a bomb. Now they can race towards a bomb. And now you attack them. So what is it? Is it the first or it's the second? Pick one. Is it the fact that they have military capabilities as great as creating a nuclear bomb or nuclear weapon or nuclear assets? Or is it the fact that they have a regime that Israel and Netanyahu don't like because it poses a threat and it causes a power balance in the region? Pick one, because now you're leaning towards the latter, but in the beginning of your administration, prior administration, and in 2011, before you became president or ran for president, you said it was about the bomb. Which one is it? Pick a side. You're contradicting yourself, and you're exposing your greater interest here. So, oops, sorry. And so it says, today Iran will be hit very hard under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior are areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. So this is the translation of what he's saying per Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, because Pete Hegseth had announced this as well. We're going to bomb the country harder because we're bombing it hard already and it doesn't seem to slow down their military capability. Trump seems to be exhausting every possibility he can before introducing boots on the ground. Well, why? The last time we did that in Iraq, we lost way too many U.S. soldiers. And as Trump said famously in 2015 when he was running for president, we should have never been in Iraq. It was a mistake. That's actually in the edit I played before the video. And so now he's going to make the same mistake that every other prior president has made in launching and deploying U.S. troops on the ground in a rough, mountainous terrain, desert terrain, snowy biome. Iran has all of these different conditions on the ground that make it very difficult for U.S. soldiers and U.S. troops and Kurdish forces that were probably mobilized in the north to infiltrate and actually destroy the IRGC, as well as the fact that the IRGC is not like Iraqi militias. They're not ISIS. They're actually a lot more strong. They're more organized, and they have more military weapons. They have more capabilities, so it's not going to be that easy. So it seems like we're desperately scrambling to try and find some sort of way and hurt Iran's infrastructure further. Obviously, Iran has set their military capabilities up in a way where high stakes or high volume bombing campaigns really don't affect their ability to launch missiles at all. Who would have thought they would have thought to do that? You know, it's not like we hit their nuclear facilities back in June, Operation Midnight Hammer, and prepared them for months to expect a full-scale war. They knew this invasion was coming, so they've had the drop on us. And I said that in my most recent video. But that's that. And at the same time, look at the other catapult, or look at the other catastrophic effect that we're feeling as a ripple. This article here reads, UAE and Kuwait start oil output cuts as after Hormuz blockage. So you're telling me that not only is the United States scrambling for some sort of control or, reduction of Iranian military capability, but the UAE and Kuwait are reducing their oil production. And this is because the Strait of Hormuz is almost closed. It's because Iran is imposing a big threat on a 20-mile passageway where 80% of Gulf oil from these Arab countries move through. So not only is that going to hurt us and make our gas prices just a little bit higher, but it's really going to hurt them, as well as the fact that Saudi Arabia has been bombed in their oil capabilities as well recently in the last few weeks. So I'll read this article, but before that, let me just play some for you guys. Okay. So this is Tehran currently. I wanted to show you guys this. This is me being vindicated, not to be cocky, but we're scrambling for control. And so now we attacked an oil depot. So this is Iran currently. Let's see. Did I have that video saved? You can hear the guy behind the camera breathing heavily. This is probably really hard for him to believe. Take a look at that. So we hit an oil depot, and guys, Tehran is like on fire. Look at this. This is in Iran. I mean, flames absolutely lighting up the sky, engulfing the entire country. You can probably see this from hundreds of miles away. So check this out. These are some images, more videos. And this is probably Israel primarily, but there's like a video of a street, complete flames. I'll find that for you guys, but yeah. So that's kind of a testament to what I was saying. And look, is this going to hurt them? Of course it is. Of course it is, but this is not going to stop the very thing we're aiming to do, which is immobilize their military capability or their offensive ability against Israel. That's not going to do it. That has nothing to do with the missiles. That whole program is underground. And Tel Aviv is getting hit hard as well, but we showed those videos already, and they censor a ton of it, so I don't feel like digging for that. But these are the reports that I'm seeing from Telegram and other verified people and news sources on the ground in these countries. So they have an internet blackout, but there's still some reports coming out, and that's what I'm reading from. So here, let's take a look at this article. So this reads, the UAE and Kuwait start reducing oil production as the near closure of the crucial Strait of Hormuz ripples through energy markets and affects global supply. Abu Dhabi National Oil Co. is quote, managing offshore production levels to address storage requirements, end quote. The company said in a statement without giving details. Kuwait Petroleum Corp said it was lowering production at both its oil fields and refineries after Iranian threats against safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, in which you try to cancel, or we tried to oppose that with insurance policies, but to no avail, because these guys don't want to get killed for the sake of pushing oil across a passageway 20 miles wide at that case for a couple dollars in their pocket. Yeah, that's not going to work. Again, this continues to say, the war in the Middle East has all but closed Hormuz, the narrow waterway linking the Persian Gulf to the open seas, to maritime traffic following Iranian threats to shipping. That's clogged up exports from the world's top oil-producing region and helped drive prices in London to the highest close in more than 2 years at almost $93 a barrel, sending consumers searching for alternatives and threatening to push global inflation higher. As me and my brother said, this is going to have a global effect. Kuwait's oil cutback started with about 100,000 barrels a day as of early Saturday and is expected to almost triple on Sunday, with the further gradual reductions depending on storage levels and the status of Hormuz. Guys, that's the real issue here, is Hormuz. A person with direct, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, this is the Strait of Hormuz. Iran borders it right here, or Iran is next to it on the north, and these are all the Gulf countries between the Gulf that separates them from Iran. And this is the small, narrow passageway where the oil is produced from these Arab countries and then pushed out into the Gulf of Oman, and so on. And so, of course, Iran is going to leverage that in their favor and pose a threat to these ships and these companies and these countries so that they can feel the economic effect of what the United States and Israel has started. Everybody saw this coming, but no one decided to really acknowledge it or understand the gravity. And we're going to see that perpetuate or grow larger and snowball effect as time continues. The UAE, which pumped more than 3.5 million barrels a day as OPEC's third biggest producer in January, is using export capacity that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. OPEC, by the way, is the organization of petroleum exporting countries. So all these countries that work together, I think it's 12 countries, in its international storage facilities to ensure supply to global markets. ADNOC operates at 1.5 million barrels a day, 1.5 million barrel a day pipeline to Fujairah on the UAE's western coast to avoid the strait. ADNOC said its onshore operations are continuing normally. Cutbacks by the two OPEC members follow a swath of others in the region. Iraq started holding back production earlier this week as storage tanks started filling up, while Saudi Arabia shut its biggest refinery and Qatar closed the world's largest liquefied natural gas export plant after drone attacks. So these drones are super cheap for Iran to make. I believe from reports that I've heard, they're about $20,000 to produce. They're made at home. They're cheap, and they have an abundance of them. I think they sold many to Russia. So it's not difficult for them to launch these drones. It's not difficult for them to use these drones, and these drones are causing this much of a catastrophic effect on the world's oil supply and, honestly, the global economy at this point. This is what you call a war of attrition. This is what you call an asymmetrical war. Can we win? Can we decapitate the IRGC? Sure we can, but to what cost? You know? And that's what we've been saying this entire time. Not only that, but there's some updates here that I have, and I'll read them off for you guys. So, first of all, these are some updates internationally. By the way, sirens are apparently being heard in Kuwait as of 30 minutes ago. So, it doesn't seem like they've cut back on their attack on the Gulf countries, but we'll see what that looks like in the next 48 hours or 72 hours. So, Russia has now been involved in giving Iran intelligence as to U.S. strikes. I'll read this here. Russia is providing Iran with intelligence on where to strike U.S. military assets in the region, a U.S. official tells the Washington Post. So what we've been doing to Russia and Ukraine is now what they're doing back to us in Iran. As much as we want to blame Russia and get mad at them for opposing us and supporting Iran, which they've always done through a back door, now they're playing a bigger role. But again, what's to be expected when we've been opposing them in Ukraine for the last few years, supplying Zelensky in Ukraine with tons of military assets, money, weapons, and so on. Another update is reports indicate that the United States has at least 3 out of the 8 THAAD systems damaged or destroyed by Iranian attacks. Another update says 5 IDF soldiers from the Ghavati Brigade were seriously injured today, Friday, so that was yesterday, as a result of gunfire in Israeli territory near the Lebanon border. Another update says Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich's son was injured during military activity on the Lebanon border, according to the Israeli Channel 12 News. Another update, Iranian forces have been put on a state of alert in Ardabil, northern Iran, along Azerbaijan's border. So what do we see? We see a larger ripple effect and a shockwave across the entire Middle East. Other countries are potentially getting involved. The Kurds are likely going to be mobilized in the north. And this is starting to look like what everybody thought World War III would be, which is several countries backing other countries to fight one country or two countries, kind of similar to that of World War II. So as long as this war continues, and as long as we actually deploy boots on ground, expect to definitely see an increase in other countries gaining an interest in supporting one or opposing factions. That's not even to mention the fact that once this war becomes boots on ground full scale, there's going to be plenty of countries that support proxies via weapons, via money, whatever it is. And that means more power vacuums, more hot pockets or hotbeds of terrorism in the region, as well as militia groups being funded to oppose United States influence because Iran is a geopolitically strategic place to have control. Despite the fact that they push so much oil to China, having control in that province serves a lot more interest than just the oil supply. So let's check out what Al Jazeera is reporting right now. And I'm going to take a quick whiz. Forgive me. Came straight back from the gym, went live. Didn't even take the time to...
From those territories, from those regional bases of the United States to Iranian territories. The reality on the ground, as Foreign Minister Araghchi was also mentioned, is that we saw the continuation of these strikes.
Okay, guys, let me just use the bathroom really quickly. Go ahead and watch this while I'm gone. I'll be back in like literally 2 minutes, and then I'll read some chats, and we'll get into a little bit more, but we'll conclude really shortly, maybe the next 20, 30 minutes.
Both are saying that they are ready to get engaged in a long-run war, in a actually something that we can call a war of attrition, and they are saying that since these attacks are continuing from the territories of those countries, they see it as their quote-unquote legitimate right to strike back the places from which these missiles, these drones, these airplanes, and these all fire is coming.
Tahir decided live for us there in Tehran. It's just worth pointing out once again, it's 8:38 in Tehran in the morning. It should be light where you are, but it's not. That's not nightfall. That is a black cloud of smoke from burning oil refineries just outside of Tehran. Extraordinary images coming there from Tehran. Let's go to Lebanon now, where at least 4 people have been killed after an Israeli attack on a hotel in central Beirut. Heidi Petz, live for us there in the capital. Israeli airstrikes being ramped up across Lebanon over the last few hours. Bring us up to date.
So just before dawn, or just as the sun was really beginning to touch the southern suburbs of Beirut this morning, we had an Israeli strike on the area known as Dahia, which has been subject to these mass forced evacuation orders issued by the Israeli military in the last couple of days. It wasn't the only strike in Dahia tonight. There was another one just after midnight as well, and that one was particularly loud, particularly large, heard across the city. But also this evening, what has been unusual is the second strike on a hotel, and this one occurred right in the heart of the capital, down by the waterfront. I was there earlier, and this is my report. This hotel in downtown Beirut was the subject of an Israeli strike early in the hours of Sunday morning. It came with no warning. It appears to have been a targeted assassination attempt. The projectile struck just one room of the hotel. There's a bit of blast damage to the others. We do not yet know who the target of that was, but inside the hotel there were hundreds of other people, and we've spoken to a number of them this evening. They themselves have been displaced from Dahia after the Israeli military issued another forced evacuation order earlier on Saturday. And
Sorry,
so
guys.
people, they vacated their homes in a hurry. We've got hundreds of thousands of people displaced across Beirut and across the country. They went there because they were seeking a place of safety.
We were in the Duroy Hotel, which is opposite the Ramada Hotel, and it faces the hotel that was targeted in the attack. We were on the 4th floor, and it was directly opposite us. When the strike happened, we felt as if it had occurred right above our heads.
This is as of 2 hours ago. Just to quickly give you guys an update as to what's going on in these Gulf countries. So the president said that there wouldn't be any further attacks in these Gulf countries. I believe this is as of today. This page is pretty quick on updates. Take a look at a Social Security building ablaze in Kuwait. Now, I would assume this is from a drone strike. Can be seen from a very great distance as well. So doesn't look like they're slowing down on the Gulf. And like I said, there's sirens that were heard about 30 minutes ago.
I was already living in the southern suburbs, and I had moved here after being displaced. This is not the first time. It is the second time that I've come here after being displaced. But this is the first time something like this has happened to us. In fact, it is the first time an assassination has taken place in a hotel in Lebanon, especially in Rauche. In Lebanon, this area is known for being safe, but in reality, it's not safe now.
Again, this continuation of the pattern of Israeli airstrikes expanding outside the areas that they say that they are targeting. They say that they're targeting Hezbollah. And so we're seeing continued airstrikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut, across the south of the country, close to the Israeli border, and also in the Bekaa Valley. And these are traditionally Shia areas, which is the support base for Hezbollah. But what we have seen tonight is this targeted assassination striking this hotel here in central Beirut, an area very far outside where you would expect to see something like that. And so it's causing it's raising the level of fear and tension here across the country as we're starting to see these Israeli airstrikes following the people who are fleeing them. And
here's
it makes
a statement from yours truly, Big Yahoo. Let's see what he has to say. I believe this is recent. Oh, amazing. All right. Some of you are probably listening, so he's speaking in Hebrew. I'll go ahead and translate. I demand that Western governments do what is necessary to fight anti-Semitism and provide the required safety and security for Jewish communities worldwide. They would be well advised to heed our warnings. I demand action from them now. Yeah. Big Yahoo is calling on all the Western countries to support him. What's new? So that's what they do. You know, they spin the narrative into, hey, it's a global issue. It's not just our issue. And they've been really good at doing that, as is evident right now in the Middle East.
Actually been
all right, let's
some
keep watching some Al
arrests of
Jazeera.
Hezbollah members as well this week, but they've put themselves in this difficult position because Hezbollah has now responded to that. In a statement a couple of days ago, they were saying, you know, is our patience supposed to be indefinite? And they cited the 15 months of ceasefire violations by the Israelis, continued airstrikes, the killing of civilians, the flattening of Dahia, the southern suburbs of Beirut, the fact that many towns in the south were completely obliterated and their residents have still not actually been able to go home. And so we now have this situation where Hezbollah is certainly still engaging in military and security activities here in Lebanon. In fact, on Saturday, they claimed 33 attacks on Israel, whether that was on Israeli forces operating inside Lebanese territory, or indeed when they were firing rockets and projectiles into not just northern, but actually quite deep into Israel. And the other thing that's interesting, I suppose, is that Hezbollah has now taken it upon itself to start issuing evacuation orders to Israeli citizens in a bit of tit for tat almost, as these mass forced evacuation orders are given to the people of Lebanon. They have actually started claiming attacks on Israeli settlements, which is a departure from the past where they would only ever say that they were targeting military objectives, so military bases or Israeli troops. And so
check this out, guys. This is the post that I was looking for. And like I said, Trump was flirting with the idea, and now it's become necessary. The White House is weighing the option of sending Delta Force troops into Iran to destroy and disable nuclear sites. Definitely not what I want to hear. So, I'm sorry. So, again, do we really want to lose Delta Force troops? You know, and nevertheless, we're going to send in normal U.S. military assets, personnel, things like that, to hopefully destabilize their missiles program and completely collapse it. But now we're talking about special forces, which, by the way, is necessary because you can bet your ass that these underground missile carriers, these underground missile building facilities and factories are well fortified with military capability. So it's not going to be an easy feat to just, you know, step in and shoot a couple guys, blow a couple things up, and seize control and destroy all of the nukes, or destroy all of the, missiles. Sorry, not going to happen. It's going to be very difficult. That's why the conversation has already entered upon us of entering special forces rather than just, you know, normal troops from the Army or the Marine Corps. Seems like that's not going to be the case. And then what do you got Randy Fine talking about? Randy Fine goes, in the last week we have had a Muslim terror attack in Austin, New York, and a board on an airplane. We don't have to live like this. End immigration, deport non-citizens, denaturalize and expel those who lied to become citizens. Yeah, you gotta love Randy Fine.
Angry by the stunning disparity between the priorities.
I mean, come on, bro. Like, what are we doing here?
Of the two parties.
So
this week, Republicans.
And that's the problem. I don't want to hear what he has to say. That's the problem. Is these are the people who move the needle. These are the people who can pass legislation, who can sign things, who can make differences in our country. They're wearing that. They're saying that. That's the problem. That's why you mustn't ignore people like Jake Lang. That's why you must really pay attention to these issues in the Middle East and be educated, because if one day you become elite human capital, if one day you know somebody who's elite human capital, you can spread the right narrative. You know, you can say the right things. So I thought that was funny. It just came up on my Twitter timeline.
You know, in terms of their
territorial integrity, when the commanders were no longer there, acting on their own initiative.
We got some chats coming in. I'll read these. So, let's see. Daily Griff says 60 million ton discovery. Yeah, no, it's remarkable. Definitely a lot of countries are going to fight over influence. And by the way, that's why we see what's happening in Libya and Sudan. Just recently, Gaddafi's son, who was going to run for leadership in Libya, was killed or assassinated by, who knows, could have been a Middle Eastern country, could have been a Western country, but he was assassinated. And so we do see a race for foreign control or foreign influence in North Africa or a lot of neighboring countries in the Levant region or Hashem. And that's because of the rare earth that we've found to be weaponized there. You know, at the end of the day, rare earth is needed for these lithium batteries that charge these electric cars and other things that have become a lot more needed these days, like smartphones and other things that make these big tech companies tons of money. What do you see? You see Mohammed bin Salman, or the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, racing towards influence in the region, and he's direct competition with who? The UAE. That's directly aligned with Israel. And so you do see this kind of small but growing need and desire for influence in the region. That's why Sudan has been destabilized. That's why there have been tries at Egypt and the Sinai. They want to try and gain control of these countries or send in some sort of military faction and take all the gold. If you saw in Sudan, a village, I believe, southwest of Khartoum, which is the capital, Al-Fashir, was being absolutely genocided. The people there were being killed and expelled for the gain of gold. And obviously the UAE, or United Arab Emirates, have been funding the RSF, or the Rapid Support Forces, which is a military proxy to destroy Sudan, destabilize it, kill its infrastructure, kill its people, expel everybody, and leave them without homes, but most importantly, seize the ability to use that gold that is rich in the ground of Sudan, which people have just now begin to find out. That's why in 2019, Putin, in response to sanctions placed on him by the United States and other countries, actually bought a lot of gold from Sudan in exchange for military assets and protection, which helped the Sudanese army repel these UAE forces just recently. And so Sudan has been able to stabilize a little bit better. But Putin had seized a lot of gold from Sudan. He bought it from them, I believe, meeting with Burhan. So you do see, like, I understand what you're saying. You do see a race for this rare earth in the region. You do see a race for gold and silver and all these other things that are critical and actually going to be a lot more valuable in the next 4 or 5 years than they are now. So certainly there's weight to that. There's truth to that. And MBS, right, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, had actually now, in recent reports that came out, called Donald Trump and called Washington and the White House, and he had said, hey, look, I would prefer if you do strike Iran, or I want you to strike Iran, I want Iran's IRGC and the Ayatollah regime to be decapitated. Why? Because if that happens, he has a little bit more ability to gain control in the region. How do we know that? Well, Mohammed bin Salman has been fighting aggressively against the Houthis south of Saudi Arabia that borders Yemen, and he wants control over that region. He supported the central government and bombed the crap out of Yemen for several years, but to no avail. He cannot destroy the Houthis. As we know, these Shia militants are like cockroaches. It's really hard to kill them or remove their influence from a region, and the Houthis are an Iranian proxy. So if Iran's out the picture, that gives Mohammed bin Salman more room to grow his influence and hopefully seize assets or gain control over countries that are rich in these rare earths. Same thing in Sudan. Mohammed bin Salman was in Washington just a few months ago, and he had pleaded with Trump to get involved in Sudan. Why? I don't think it's because he cares about the Sudanese people. Rather, he knows Sudan has tons of gold. He has tons of rare earth, or Sudan has tons of rare earth that can be weaponized and used for Saudi Arabia's what seems to be failing economy in the next few years, because oil is not the hottest commodity. So 2 things that these Arab Gulf countries are going to prioritize: the ownership or the export of rare earth and using that and leveraging that for their economy, as well as having tons of tourism. What hurts that, of course, is a regional war. But if they can destabilize these countries or distract Israel and Iran and the UAE, then it opens up the door for Mohammed bin Salman to take advantage and hopefully gain influence. And you could look into this stuff. He's been trying very hard to plant leadership in different countries and become the main power in the Middle East, which I think he'll probably get because he's the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, that being Mecca and Medina. Hegseth talked in 2017 at some small hat dinner about demolishing the Dome of the Rock to build the 3rd temple. Them boys are crazy. Yeah, I know. I saw that. I pray. Was it in 2017? And was it Hegseth? Yeah, you might be right. Maybe I'm thinking of something different, or maybe that's what I saw. Daily Griff, I pray to Jesus they don't hit the Dome of the Rock. Yeah, man, let's pray. Let's hope not. But, Israel has their eyes set out on Masjid al-Aqsa, and Dome of the Rock is there. Y-Balls says, W Riyadh, thanks, man. Do you think if the war continues for more than a month, Iran will just decide to completely flatten them? Who's them? Israel? They're trying now. Maybe they'll ramp up the missile program. Here's what I can say. If we confirm we're putting boots on the ground, if we confirm we're sending troops in, or if we just do it, the IRGC will probably really start to dump their best weapons out. They'll probably start to get rid of everything. So, there's like no real way to win this war without Israel really getting fucked up. Peruvian, sorry, I'm trying not to curse. Peruvian Hayes says W Riado / thanks, man. OTB Visual says, F everyone in the chat for no reason whatsoever. Okay, man. Unnecessary violence. Crazy, man. Thanks. Like the MF video right now. Don't be a J. Yeah, really appreciate the likes, guys. Push me in the algorithm. Final Take says, Ramadan Kareem. Ramadan Kareem to you, my friend. Guys, I'm thirsty as hell. I miss suhoor, bro. For those of you who are not Muslim, I woke up. So Muslims wake up at sunset to eat and drink before the fast starts, when the sun rises or the sun hits the horizon. And bro, I slept through it. And my last sip of water last night was like 11 p.m., bro. So I'm like I still have not replenished. Like, I'm so thirsty. I'm getting cotton mouth right now as I'm talking, so bear with me. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. Alvaro Delion says, your brother and you have put me on game. Thanks for spreading the truth, W. Bro, as long as I continue to hear that, I'll continue to do what I do. That's the best thing I can hear, and I'm very happy that's the case. God bless you, man. All right. So, let's see what else we have here. If there's anything else that's pressing. That's kind of all I really wanted to go over. You know, these Gulf countries are still getting hit. Jake Lang is being a dumbass, and Muslims are giving him the heat he so desires. And Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth are struggling against the press. But I went over that in great detail last stream. So, look, we'll see what happens. I'll be honest, and I don't want to be... How can I say this without sounding like a warmonger or some dumbass who doesn't know what he's talking about? Because I like to be very conservative in my points and my analysis and my predictions so that I don't look like a dumbass later. Understandably so. But expect a very violent ramp up of military offensive in the Middle East against Iran by the United States and Israel. I don't want to say anything nuclear, but expect them to really flatten Iran over the next few days. It seems like they're in a desperate scramble to remove any source of influence they can. They haven't successfully done it. And so I am a little bit concerned about the next few weeks. I am a little bit concerned. I would safely assume this is World War III. So, and I'm not being Mr. Warmongerer, but I mean, look at the region. Kuwait is involved. Bahrain is involved. The UAE is involved. Peaceful Gulf countries that are aligned with the United States and really Israel for that matter. But I mean, you know it's a problem when Azerbaijan is flirting with the idea. You got the Kurds who are going to be mobilized in the north. It's a big issue. So if boots on the ground introduce themselves, or boots on the ground is introduced as an idea or a strategy by the United States, certainly expect Iran to ramp up the missile attack against Israel and maybe neighboring countries as well. So no one's safe. No one is safe. Look at this.
Israelis. I think that's what the calculation
this is Tel Aviv.
Is. Regime preservation.
That is crazy.
Get a more pragmatic figure presiding over this regime? Sure.
Bro, these missiles are fast.
Regime preservation.
Says it does not believe dome that Israel uses as its missile defense system, and we're seeing it working now, but in some places and instances it does not work, and I believe this is one missile feasibly that has broken through the Iron Dome.
Guys, and by the way, Iran has created its missiles program exactly for the purpose of infiltrating U.S. defended airspace. Like, that's how it's engineered. So not only are they highly capable of traveling at Mach 10 speed and more, which is like faster than the speed of sound, but they're also capable of penetrating U.S. defense systems that are made for missiles. They've done this since not only the summer, but they've always created these. That's why Israel is struggling. So not only is it more expensive to intercept these missiles, but they can't intercept all of them. Iran sends these cluster missiles, some of them ballistic, some of them not, some of them just dummy missiles. They don't even explode. And out of all of them that are being intercepted, one or two are always going to break through. And it's a war of attrition. So it's so much more expensive for the United States and Israel to defend from these than it is for Iran to attack with these. Again, that's what's going to push Trump to say, damn it, Israel's getting hit hard. I've got to do something and clean up my mess. And he's probably going to put boots in the ground. As I said weeks ago, you can go back and check my videos from as early as January and as early as February when I started this YouTube channel. I told my brother, that would happen. I told you guys that would happen. My brother said that would happen. And what happened? The United States is the strongest military in the world, bro. All right. Keep glazing. Keep glazing. You'll see what happens. But anyways, anything else you guys want me to react to? You know, like I said, shorter stream. I'll probably be on with Myron tomorrow. But I thought, you know, let me give you guys a little content before. Well, we got 700 people in there. Well, shout out to you guys, man. 700 from you guys. God bless everybody who's watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. Really appreciate everything and the support that I've been receiving thus far. You know, this streaming thing is something I find to be really fun. So I've joined my brother in doing it, but it's been quite successful. So I really appreciate the love and the outpour of support so far. Look at this. So this is the interceptions work in real time. You can see the missiles colliding in the air. You can see it more in the beginning of the video. Crazy stuff. World War III is upon us.
On Saturday, killed just under a week ago in an Iranian drone strike.
So these are the soldiers.
The soldiers have been working in a makeshift office at a commercial port where, according to one soldier's husband, the army had moved them as a security measure before the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran began.
They're great heroes in our country, and we're going to keep it that way. There's always, when it comes to war, there's always that, but we're going to keep it to a minimum.
Disgusting pig.
This was the first time President Donald Trump has received the remains of U.S. service members killed in a military conflict he launched. Beside him were the Vice President, First Lady, Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other U.S. dignitaries. The 6 soldiers killed include a mother of 2, a cybersecurity expert, a martial arts instructor, and a 20-year-old college student whose sister previously spoke with reporters.
So I just wish he could have known one more time that we all loved him because he was so amazing and kind.
Trump says the fallen U.S. soldiers are heroes and has claimed credit, he says, for rebuilding the military. That's a recasting from his first term when he was criticized.
Donald Trump will go down as the biggest traitor in U.S. history, I think, in the next 20 or 30 years.
For reportedly calling.
Because his motivations for going to war in the Middle East are so much more explicit than that of Bush's motivations. So much more.
Fallen soldiers.
This war is solely for Israel. Solely. There is no other benefit at all.
Losers. Trump himself received 5 deferments during the Vietnam War to avoid being drafted. Dover is the place where all U.S. military members who die in a theater of operation are repatriated.
And why do I say that? Because this whole idea of Islamic terrorism has died out. It's lost its steam. It's lost its momentum. That's why I make fun of guys like Jake Lang. Because this whole idea of like Muslims are terrorists, Muslims bomb people, Muslims hate people, Muslims kill people, that's lost a lot of steam. It's lost a lot of its firepower. And so back in 2001, when everybody saw the Twin Towers come crashing down and Muslims were blamed for it, well, of course, there's this motivation to get something back. There's this motivation for retribution. There's this motivation to destroy the people at the hands of this or at the idea, right? We want to destroy any ideology that aligns with what we saw happen in New York City. And that's kind of like why that war was so popular at the time. You know, Operation Iraqi Freedom, you know, George Bush addresses the people and he says, we're going to destroy these terrorists. We're going to destroy the weapons of mass destruction. Our country will no longer be victim to Islamic terrorism, and everybody's charged up. Now we know that's like BS. Now we know there's so many more moving pieces to 9/11 than that which we knew in 2001 or even 2010. A lot more people are red-pilled on that. And so to see what we're doing now, by the way, in response to no major attack done by Iran, Iran has not actually launched a full-scale attack on the United States that matches or is likened to 9/11 in any sort of vicious or violent capability. The fact that we went to war again after there was no popular desire for it. Even Charlie Kirk, the biggest Zio shill in modern American history, really, has opposed this war and said that regime change in Iran will not benefit us. It will have a catastrophic effect across the entire Middle Eastern region, which we're seeing now. And it's not going to do what Trump or anybody in the GOP thinks it will do. Charlie Kirk himself said this. So not only is it bad that Trump has done this, but he's done this with no excuse at all. And that's what makes it that much worse. He knows exactly why we're going to war. And he knows exactly who the direct beneficiary is of it. And he's still willing to say, well, some soldiers are going to die. It's like, you're really a piece of shit. So I think he's going to lose a lot of credibility. I think he already has, but I think he will historically go down as one of the biggest traitors in U.S. history.
The president has warned that there will likely be more of these solemn occasions as the war with Iran continues. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Dover Air Force Base, Delaware.
Now let's take a look at some of the day's other news now. A Palestinian man has been killed and a young girl injured in an Israeli strike in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Israeli forces have been carrying out airstrikes in multiple areas across the Strip in violation of a ceasefire. Israeli army.
So take a look at this, guys. I'm going to react to this live. I haven't even seen this yet. I saw some of it in the news, but I didn't get to watch the video. So Southwest Airlines Flight 2094 on Friday en route from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale, which had to make an emergency landing to Atlanta to remove a passenger who I guess was inciting violence. I didn't watch the video yet, so let's take a look together.
Stand up, let's go. Stand up. Everybody heads down. Stand up. Stand up.
Okay, so this is the guy who was arrested. Let's read the news article. Like I said, I'm reacting to this live with you guys. I didn't get a chance to take a look at it, but I hear reports that he was screaming Allahu Akbar. I also saw reports that the guy just had an alarm on his phone to pray. And so the FBI has already said there's no credible threat detected after Southwest flight diverts to Atlanta. But we can read this news article by Fox 5 Atlanta. So here it is. It says, no credible threat found after Southwest flight diverted to Atlanta. And I'm bringing this article up to make a bigger point that I'm noticing in the United States right now. What we know, Southwest Airlines Flight 2094 landed safely in Atlanta at approximately 9:06 p.m. after diverting from its original path to Florida. According to a statement from Southwest Airlines, the aircraft was diverted to respond to a possible security matter. The airline confirmed that a specific passenger was removed from the flight by the Atlanta Police Department. What they're saying, Southwest Airlines emphasized their commitment to safety following the disruption. This is just more of an update. What we don't know, it remains unclear exactly what the passenger in question did or said to trigger their security response. Officials have not confirmed if any dangerous items were actually found on the aircraft. Additionally, the current status of the detained passenger and whether they face charges has not been released by the Atlanta Police Department. So I don't know what this guy said, and you guys probably know more about me than this because I haven't gotten a chance to take a look at it. But this is to make a greater point, and this is to pay attention because we saw the shooting in Austin a few weeks ago by this Muslim guy who had like a hoodie that said property of Allah and then an Iranian shirt under. And I'm not a conspiracist. I want to make that apparent, and I actually want to make another statement apparent. I want to let this be known before I go into this. Muslims do end up being the source of many terrorist attacks. Like, that's not a controversy, right? But I have to say that because I'm a Muslim. And so, you know, people will think, well, this guy is biased and this guy's... No, I will acknowledge that Muslims do have a hand in terrorist attacks around the world. They typically do that by bombing people or mass shootings. You know, they are responsible for that. These extremist Muslims, we would call them Khawarij. That's how we label them religiously, kind of like people who have deviated from the straight path and taken the religion into their own exegesis, its own interpretation, and made everything incredibly extreme. By the way, the Prophet warned of these people in Islam, but I digress. I don't want to get too theological here. The point to make is Muslims definitely do have a track record of doing shit like this. There's no, you know, there's no like dancing around that. So I want to make sure people understand that I know that. With that being said, I would like to say expect sleeper cell agents, people who could be assets of Israel or the CIA, to maybe invoke some false flag attacks, maybe create more division amongst Americans, Christians, Muslims, and give a little bit more fuel or motivation behind this idea of a war in Iran or a war in the Middle East. And so that's something to pay attention to. In regards to this story, I don't know if a guy actually screamed Allahu Akbar or his phone went off or somebody just labeled him a racist or whatever. I mean, if he got on the plane, I'm assuming he went through a check, so I don't know how he could have had anything on him, but people can smuggle stuff, and we've seen that. So ultimately, it was maybe a false alarm. I don't know. But never think that I will shy away from mentioning the fact that, hey, a Muslim did some extreme shit. Like, I will always acknowledge that. I will always call Muslims out on that. That's in my best interest because I want my people to be accountable for their own actions. I want my people to be accountable for the actions of what may represent our culture. Even if it's not representative in our religion, which I know it's not, I want to make sure that the message is sent that I acknowledge that, I condemn that, and I don't stand for that. And I have to do that because I'm a Muslim. That's like my dog is in the fight. My dog is in this mess. I want to make sure I acknowledge that. With that being said, there's no secret that foreign governments utilize that idea, utilize that reality to perpetuate a further wedge between those of Christians and Muslims who want to align or liken some values. So you got to understand both things at the same time. Just because one exists doesn't mean the other doesn't. They don't cancel each other out, but understanding them in tandem and prioritizing them correctly and paying attention to the news is very important to kind of understand the grand scheme of things. So I would expect more of this. I see an uprise and kind of like, and Jake Lang is one of the leading charges on this, but I do see this wave and like, you know, a Muslim did this and a Muslim did that. And it's like, we've been seeing a shortage of that until like 2026 and the outset of this war. So definitely a little sus. Like I said, I'm not a conspiratard. I don't like to conspiracize. I don't like to do this whole, oh, false flag, and paint everything as a false flag. But I just pay attention to the facts. I think that certain things don't add up. And I think foreign governments and people in high power or political positions of power greatly benefit from a lot of division between Muslims and Christians. I think that's a reality. I think that's a fact. And I think it greatly benefits Israel. Look at what Netanyahu just said the other day in his statement. Our problem in Iran is also your problem. And how can they make the problem our problem as well? By moving this Islamic terrorism into the United States and hurting our people. That's what's going to charge up the president, the GOP, other members of Congress to vote for war in the Middle East. That's what helps them, right? We saw that with 9/11. After 9/11, the entire country was on board to get militarily involved in the Middle East in a war that ultimately did not help us, in a war that caused Bush in 2017 in a CNN interview to apologize about. Could you imagine? Bush apologized for attacking Iraq. Bush apologized for lying about weapons of mass destruction. Even Trump admitted, which is why he's such a hypocrite, and he contradicts himself, that we were in Iraq for no reason. So now we're back in the Middle East again. The United States and the populist vote isn't really approving this war, especially with Gen Z and people who are younger. And so there has to be something to fortify the reasoning of being involved. There has to be something to justify our involvement in the Middle East. And I would pay very close attention to developments in the news over terrorist attacks and motivations and things like that before you make a conclusion, because I think there is a very big benefit. I think there's an appetite for that, especially from Israeli officials and the prime minister himself. So that's something to pay attention to. But I saw that and I thought that that was really like, just the timing is eerie. You know, the timing is like too perfect. And yeah, that's kind of that. I don't want to get too deep into it because, again, like I said, you know, it is a little bit conspiratorial, but it's important to mention. But yeah, oil depots are being hit in Iran. Dubai International Airport is hit. We've seen strikes on other critical pieces of infrastructure in Saudi. Oil refineries, the biggest one in Saudi, being hit just a few days ago. So oil prices are about to skyrocket. And the United States economy is going to have to deal with that. We'll see what happens. Stocks may dump. You know, trading prices may be very volatile. There's going to be a big shift in the economy, not only in the world on a global stage, but domestically too here in the United States. And I don't want to be the told you so guy, but I told you so. I said this was going to happen. So everybody thought it'd be a 3-4 day clean sweep. We'll get them out just like we did to Maduro. No, that's the IRGC is not Venezuela. Should have known that from a long time ago. So yeah, is what it is. But oh, all right. Here's a statement from Saudi Foreign Minister. This is in June 2025. So this was after the 12-day war.
إسرائيل لزيارة هذه اللجنة إلى الضفة.
Some of you are listening, so I'll go ahead and translate. Israel's refusal to allow this committee to visit the West Bank, forcing us to postpone it, is merely a manifestation
كما ذكرتم لتطرفها ولرفضها.
Okay, and rejection of any serious attempts at peace and diplomacy. It is clear that they want nothing but violence. This is a Saudi official saying this. This strengthens our resolve to redouble our diplomatic efforts in the international community to confront this arrogance and deter it, God willing. The meeting with His Excellency, the Presidency. Okay, so it ended there. And this was in June, by the way. What happened since then? Well, Mike Huckabee, the Israeli ambassador for the United States, has an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he says, well, if Israel controlled the entire region, that'd be great. You know, he just says that wide open, talking to Tucker Carlson. And all the Gulf countries together in unity responded with a statement. And you know what? I'll pull it up for you guys. Check this out. Tell me the wind is not blowing in an unfavorable direction for the United States, and I'll show you this instead. Let me give you guys the whole lore on this so you're not confused. So this is what he says in a Tucker interview. Shout out to Tucker Carlson. Not only has he exposed governments that are subverted by AIPAC, but he's also exposing these other people in these interviews as well. Ted Cruz, now this guy. Check this out.
Tell me you've appealed to Genesis. Genesis 15 says it's Abram, it's pre-Abraham, it's Abram, receives from God the news that his descendants will inherit the land, and you tell me as the theologian if I'm getting this wrong, but from the Euphrates to the Nile. I think that's right. And that would include like basically the entire Middle East. That would be the Levant, so that would be Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. It would also be big parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. It would be, I mean...
I'm not sure it would go that far. I mean, it would be a big piece of land, but here's the point.
It would be a lot of places that are now countries.
But this particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave.
They just don't hide it. They just have stopped hiding it.
Through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism, I want to go back because that's where we started on this.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
You've appealed to...
Did you hear that?
It would be fine if they took it all.
So, I mean, anyways, before I give my take, let's see what the response was from the OIC, which is the Organization of Islamic Communities or Islamic Countries. They have like some pact or alliance. I'll go ahead and pull it up here. So, several countries in the Middle East are on this. I'll name them for you, but this reads here. The organization of the OIC condemns the dangerous and irresponsible statements made by the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, as an unacceptable seizure of more Palestinian and Arab lands based on false and rejected historical and ideological narrative and claims that violate the sovereignty of states, diplomatic norms, principles of international law, UN resolutions, and the UN Charter. The OIC General Secretariat also warned that such extremist ideological rhetoric would fuel extremism and encourage the Israeli occupation to continue its illegal measures based on displacement, settlement, and attempts to impose annexation of the occupied Palestinian territory, which threatens security and stability to the entire region or in the entire region. The OIC General Secretariat reiterated its unwavering support for the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and foremost of which their right to self-determination and the establishment of their independent and sovereign state on the borders of June 4th, 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital. Okay, so that's in regards to the whole Palestinian two-state solution dilemma that's existed for decades and decades. But let's see what countries have condemned Mike Huckabee's statement and why that matters. Okay, so let's see if I can find this here. A lot of countries were on this pact. All right. So this is going to read from the joint statement. This is the 22nd of February, so this is the next day. We have Jordan, the UAE, Republic of Indonesia, Pakistan, Bahrain, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Kuwait, Lebanon, Egypt. Who else is on here? Pretty much every damn Muslim country, a majority of them. And the the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, expressed their strong condemnation and profound concern regarding the statements made by the United States ambassador to Israel, in which indicated that it would be acceptable for Israel to exercise control over territories belonging to Arab states, including the occupied West Bank. So this is the first time, really, in modern history, we've seen a very large and controlled and response of Arab countries kind of uniting and condemning this idea of Israel expanding its borders. Now, we all know the Arab-Israeli war in the 60s and the 70s, the tensions between the Arab countries and Israel. And if we stopped militarily supporting Israel today, the first thing that would happen is Israel would probably be wiped off of a map by all of these countries, because they would be able to oppose them without worrying about their own safety, although that would probably result in the Samson option or the Israel using a nuclear weapon to eradicate many of these countries. Regardless, the point is, a lot of these countries are only neighboring Israel peacefully and only have normalized relations with them, probably beside the UAE, for the avoidance of a war with the United States or tensions with the United States. It would hurt their economy, it would hurt their safety, so on and so forth. Because, of course, as you know, we're cucked by Israel, and so we back them in everything, even though they pose a great moral hazard. So Mike Huckabee, this ambassador, he says in the Tucker interview, in which I think he screwed up really bad. I'm sure a lot of people told him he shouldn't have said that, who are on his side, that they could take it all. This refers from the Nile, which is in Egypt, to the Euphrates, which is in Iraq. So that's the greater Israel. That's kind of like the biblical Israel that's kind of perceived in Genesis and other passages in the Old Testament that you can find if you read through it, Ezekiel as well. And pretty much the idea is, theologically, all of the Middle East belongs to them. And I'm going to make a great point here and tie it up, but all of the Middle East belongs to them. And so Mike Huckabee, in saying this, kind of exposed what everybody was already thinking, or everybody already had an idea of. Not only does this look really bad, but the Arab country said, what the hell? We already knew that was the plan. We're trying to stop it while straddling the line. But for you to just full on say that explicitly and not hide it is really disgusting. It's damaging to your credibility. It's damaging to the United States' credibility. And this is before the war in Iran started. So that's just the cherry on top. Remember, in Christian Zionism, or rather evangelical Christianity and Protestantism, they use the Old Testament to kind of support this Christian Zionist narrative, which is there's a prophetic reliance upon the Old Testament and upon the greater Israel project, and Israel having full hegemony over the region for the coming of Christ. Because if Israel has control, then they're in a good state for their Antichrist, or, Al-Masih ad-Dajjal is better known in Islamic eschatology as one of the signs of the end of the world. Once this happens, then Jesus Christ returns. That's in Christianity, and that's in Islam as well. The problem with the Christian Zios is they believe the covenant with Israel is still valid. They still believe in this idea that the chosen people of God have this promise of flesh, that being the world. They don't have this idea, which you'll find in the New Testament, of the chosen people of God having the kingdom, the spiritual kingdom, that being with Christ. That's why Christ was crucified, for the atonement of sins of past and present humankind. And so now there's no longer this need for this Jewish law and this Old Testament law. Now we have Jesus Christ. The kingdom is promised for everybody, not just for the Israelites. But that's not the case, right? You see this overlap where, yeah, they both believe Christ will come back, but with different motivations and implications. That's how Christian Zionism exists. People like Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and others push this narrative, and whether they believe it or not, it's lucrative. It makes their pockets heavier, and so that's why they push it so hard. But you can find this being debunked in several passages in the New Testament. Matthew 21:43, I believe, John 4:21. Christ tells the people, or Jesus is telling the people, the kingdom will respond, or correspond to larger than that of Israel or Jerusalem. So Jesus is kind of telling not only his disciples, but the Pharisees or the Jews as well, and their rabbis and their monks that Israel is no longer this unified nation, that it's excluded from everything. Now the whole world is promised a kingdom. The whole world is promised eternal salvation. And in Matthew, he also says similar things, like the kingdom of God will be taken from you. He says this in the temple, and it will be given to all the people, right? And it's could be due to their ignorance or a different exegesis, but that's kind of how like the Orthodox or the Catholics read it, or even some Protestants for that matter. But in mainstream Protestantism, you'll find this idea, especially with the evangelicals, that the Old Testament and its prophecies and its promises have to be fulfilled for the coming of Christ. Whereas in a more honest reading of the New Testament, you find that the Romans answered to the Jews to kill Jesus Christ. And in that crucifixion or his sacrifice for humankind, there is no longer this binding law. You don't have to refrain from eating shellfish. Now you can eat pork. The Old Testament law is rendered invalid. Christ's blood has now redeemed it and stepped in place for it. And so now you must believe in eternal salvation through Christ, that he died for your sins and you're good. But Christian Zionism kind of supports the Jewish narrative. I'm telling you guys this because this plays into and is a direct proof of, the Greater Israel Project. And I kind of want to be careful. This can be a destructive topic to mention on stream here on this platform, but that's the whole idea. And so Mike Huckabee and others kind of push this narrative, but these guys are the worst. And I'll tell you why. You're a Christian. You believe in Christ. You don't believe in anything that has to do with Jewish theology. Sure, Christians actually recognize the Old Testament as valid scripture, Word of God, inspired Word of God, and so they understand it for theological reason and historical thought, but they don't actually follow its law because that was redeemed or that was fulfilled. Christ fulfilled the law by being crucified. By the way, I'm Muslim, but I'm just giving you the Christian perspective. I'm giving you like the mainstream Christian ideology here. And so to be a Christian Zionist is to not only reject the New Testament, whether you mean to do it or not, but it's to fulfill the old law that if it does exist, then Christ's crucifixion is for nothing. Because if you follow the old law, then from a Christian perspective, it's like, well, then Jesus died for no reason. Like that's the whole reason he came, he died, he sacrificed himself, this whole thing. So not only are these guys traitors to the United States, not only are they traitors to their own people, but they're traitors to the religion. It's very important to understand that and be able to verbalize the difference and understand why one believes one versus why the other side believes in their whole narrative. So, and has there been infiltration inside of masked Christian churches and, Christian denominations to spread this idea further by this certain group of people? There certainly has been, but that's a little bit more historical. And I don't want to get into that so much because I'm already going kind of hard and I don't want the stream to get nailed. But that's the idea. So this is Mike Huckabee as a Christian Zionist, and you find these guys pushing this narrative. And so it's important to kind of have the knowledge to disarm it, destruct it, and attack its foundation from the bottom up and completely dismantle it because it's false. And even I know that as a Muslim. But crazy stuff. So again, this is more of proof as to what I was saying previously. These Gulf countries are really not liking. They've got to put it this way. The GCC, these Gulf countries, and the rest of the Arab Muslim world has a bad taste in their mouth, not only from Mike Huckabee's statements, but really in totality from the actions of the United States and Israel, getting them involved in this war. And expect to see further alliance, expect to see further parallels with these Gulf countries and these Arab countries to that of Russia, to that of China. Why? Russia and China don't come with the same moral hazard implication that the United States comes with. If the United States backs you, that means that they'll support you, but Israel is priority number one. So when Iran is sending a hypersonic ballistic missile at your head, you might not get a U.S. defense missile in return for that because they got to worry about Tel Aviv. That puts a bad taste in the mouth of these Gulf countries that, by the way, support the United States economically in exchange for military support, which they aren't getting. So it's like a multifaceted issue. All of the issues blame or point towards Israel. So expect further alignment with Russia and China because they're not going to come with that Israeli baggage. These Gulf countries and these Arab countries are suffering greatly from this Israeli baggage that the United States has to answer to and take care of. So it's a lot of dirt under the rug. It's a lot of difficulty. And the GOP has done a great job in exposing this weakness and exposing the fact that we prioritize Israel over the entire Middle East. Saudi has expressed this verbally and directly and explicitly a few days ago. And so there's no secret there. But I digress. Important things to understand. Let's read through some chats. Okay. Okay, Emperor Evade says, big up from Somalia, Ramadan Kareem. Thank you, my friend. God bless you. Anything to talk down the United States and prop up countries run by terrorists. Islam has colonized more land than the Jews could ever take. Okay. Johnny, you've been giving me so much money. You've been the best goy. So just keep super chatting and saying stupid things that no one in the chat agrees with, and I'll continue to take your money from you. And it seems like you actually serve the United States military too. So although I'd give you credit, you're so happy that the United States is, doing what they're doing. I hope you don't have to fight on behalf of Israel and do their bidding. And I hope you don't get hurt. God bless you. But really appreciate the money. Maybe you're a paid agent. I don't know what you are, but you're really stupid. And you don't need to watch the show, but clearly you're obsessed with me. And it's obvious that I'm smarter than you because you can't help but watch my show and give me more and more money. And I disprove you every single time. So thanks. $5 really helps. Keep sending it. Good goy. You're the best Gentile I've ever known. Anyways, guys, that's kind of it. I think that's really it for the news. Again, it seems like this war is favoring the United States less and less and favoring Israel more and more. And before we know it, we'll probably be in a full-scale boots-on-ground war, as Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have hinted at in their pressings at the White House, in their presses at the White House, and their statements. And so we'll pay attention. We'll give developments as time progresses, and we'll see if we get anywhere. But definitely not good signs if you're a U.S. citizen. Definitely not good signs if you're military personnel. We ask God to protect the military personnel of the United States, and we hope that the death toll is very low, because I'm assuming a lot of our soldiers don't want to go to war. They don't want to fight this war, and this is really demoralizing, not only for the people, but for our military as well. Guys, that's really it. Let me make sure there's no chats, and then I'll close out the stream here. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Like the video, sub to the channel. We go live here Thursdays and Fridays. Saturdays is supposed to be with Myron, but again, like I said, he had a flight delayed, so he's probably flying right now or in the air, or he may have just landed. I'm not sure. And then Thursdays, I usually go live alone. And expect more from where this all comes from. I think we kind of went over everything. Let me make sure I got no chats, and then we'll close out here. Let's see. All right, guys. God bless you all. Thanks for the love and support. And we will see you. Maybe I'll be on stream tomorrow, but if not, probably Wednesday or Thursday. And I'll have a couple videos uploaded. I just uploaded a video. We're getting 2 shorts out a day. Follow the clips page. Oh, let me do this actually while I have you guys here. Guys, go show love to the clips page. I got my guy in the UK running this. Shout out to the Mandem. Riyadh Pilled on Instagram. So I'm going to have clips here daily, maybe 1 or 2 clips a day. This is going to be my most active clips page. I know there's a couple others, but this is actually run by the guys that work directly with me. So go ahead and show that some love. All right, that's linked not only in my bio. I'm going to put it in my bio now, but that's linked in my most recent video as well. Follow me on X. Pull up the X here. I'm always giving updates, retweeting posts and stuff like that to keep you guys updated on the news, as well as giving my takes. I'm on here complaining. Here's me saying me and Myron are vindicated again. But, give that a follow. Support me on all platforms. I really appreciate you guys. I don't want to put my content behind a paywall ever, as long as I'm not forced to, because I have the benefit of not being canceled. But if that day comes, then I'm going to probably need that. But until then, support me for free by following me on all these platforms. And I look forward to seeing you guys either tomorrow or Wednesday. God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your night, great evening, and we'll talk again.